democracy and ever-changing news and computer terminology. Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 166 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our second batch of games from issue 68 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were flickered by Atomic Robo Kid, shuddered at Sabutio, and crashed and sped along in Chase HQ2 Special Criminal Investigations. This week, we conclude our look at the games in December 1990, along with what was also lighting up our cinema screens that month. Graham, it is finally the end of the year. Are we seeing the new year in with a bang, or are we trapped in a Jules Holland hootenanny?
It's the end of December 1990, and as we hear the last jingling bell announce that Batman did indeed smell and wave Robin a fond farewell on his trip away, we say goodbye to the last few Quality Street, repurpose the tin for Lego storage, and in a month where the gravel-voiced, spiky-haired wannabe Highlander Rod Stewart inexplicably married a supermodel, we head to the good arcades for the last time and decide to take a run, and indeed a gun, down Dystopian Avenue as we take on the military might of King Crimson in the impressive C64 arcade conversion of Midnight Resistance, before heading across the 8-bit wastelands towards some 8-bit racetracks so we can drive our tiny off-road vehicles around the bendy and bumpy circuits of the Badlands. We always had a small amount of Christmas crackers left over, and outside of the festive few days, the idea of a small explosive bog roll tube containing an undersized tissue paper hat, a landfill-destined fingernail, or painful to attach mustache, as well as some kind of obvious joke or motto, loses its, cohesion. Anyway, while we wonder if the thin red fish of destiny could indeed tell the future, we finish off 1990 with some more arcade games, this time in a final trip to the WTF section of the Arcade Obscura. First up, we control a brown baked bean on a mission to stack similar looking blocks on top of other blocks in the very brown and beanie weirdness of the unreleased C64 cartridge game Plotting, before finally taking control of a block cursor and going on an arguably very similar mission to stack similar looking blocks on other related blocks to destroy lines of blocks in the blocky and bright Puzznic. It's goodbye 1990, fare thee well. Over 100 games, and the greater percentage were eggs of the proverbial dog. Still, there have been some gems, and indeed in this very episode, maybe we've had a final hurrah. It's been running for years, the Hootenanny show, hasn't it?
I know it has. Bloody years.
Yeah.
Like, good Lord.
And it's the same format every year, isn't it? People sat around, generally being quite congratulatory to other musicians who sit around. It's quite sit-aroundy, really. It's
a bit sit-aroundy and a bit sort of piano-y. There's lots of Jules Holland piano going, yeah, look at me piano, hey, ching plong blink. It's like, that's what it is.
Yeah, apparently he's very well known and respected.
I'm sure he is, but I've always watched them with a certain dread and horror.
I never know quite, if I'm in, more often than not we are these days, I never really know what to watch. I'm just kind of, because it's all the same kind of thing. It's just like...
Well, you can, for 10 minutes, vicariously watch the fireworks display from the Thames. You go, ooh.
Yeah, ooh. And go, look at all those people. Look at all those people stood there. They must be freezing.
Yeah, they must be freezing. Drink another beer. It didn't cost me £7.
Yeah.
Just to sort of say as well, if my voice sounds a bit weaker and I'm a bit breathier, I've got COVID again this week. So I'm fighting through it because I do want to finish off this bloody year.
Thank God we don't bloody record this in person.
True, we don't. I'm breathing heavily on the screen at you though, but catch it. No, you don't want it. It's been a particularly it's been bleh week, but you know it is what it is. I'm on the downside now. I'm on the way out, so it's all good. It's all good. Oh, it's not because it's been a shitty week, but you know, it is what it is. But there we go. This is it, Graham. This is it. The end of 1990.
It's the final countdown, as some band once said. It is.
Jovi.
We're nearly there. Yeah, something like that. We're nearly there.
We're nearly
1990 is nearly complete. That's a good thing, I think.
It is. And we've got our last 4 games to look at.
Almost.
Well, yeah, we've got 4 games to look at. Back then, you only had 3.
Yeah. We'll explain why soon.
We will. We'll
soon,
explain
Zoltan.
why
Soon.
And this is it's a right episode down the arcades, isn't it?
It is actually, yes, very
Every
heavily.
one.
Yeah, every single one. Yeah,
It's an arcade conversion.
it is.
Ending the month on arcade down the arcades for this.
And dare I say it, Adrian, it's a triple treat.
It's in more ways than one, but yes, it is a triple. What a triple treat is it, Graham?
It's an ocean triple treat.
Triple treat.
I don't know if I'll dare play that music for that. I don't know if people will hear that and go, "That's no treat."
This
We'll
week,
see. We'll see. But
maybe
it is a
book the
triple
trend.
treat. Triple treat. It is. And considering there's only 4 games, that's not bad going.
Yeah, 3 from the. And last week we had Special HQ, didn't we? What Chase HQ,
Exactly.
whatever.
I'll have 3 from the bottom row, 1 from the top. Da-da. Did it.
You're right.
They're all going off at once.
Absolutely.
Wow. They're all here. Everyone's here. And there's Dusty Bin.
Absolutely. And you don't get 2 dusty bins in the bed. Nothing for 2 dusty bins in the bed.
Not in this game.
Not
He asked
in this
100 people. And this is what they said.
Absolutely, as survey said. Oh, come on, Dollies, do your dealing.
Oh, I hate that bit.
And he said it because I know it annoys you. You can't knock a bit of Brucey.
He can. He called them dollies. That's not good.
It's not good.
In this lensy world, no. None of that.
No, okay. Okay, I apologise, Dollies.
We won't call you dollies anymore, even if you are dealing like dollies.
Yeah, but not Coke. No, we don't want that'd be well different, wouldn't it? If Price is Right, it's like, how much would you give for this gram?
It's just a whole different take on it.
40 quid. Is it higher or lower?
I'm not sure Bruce thought I would approve.
Come on, do your dealing. How much?
We joke about it, of course, but don't do drugs.
Yeah, play your crack right.
I don't even want to go down that road.
Oh, COVID's done things to my brain. Anyway, should we get into some games? Should we get into our 4 games? And I've listed this. I've listed these game shows and into some video games. All right, let's move on. Let's get into our very first game of the week. And Graham, that one is over to you. It's it's an interesting one. It's over to you to tell us all about what it's like to be part of the Midnight Resistance.
Always a good name for a game, this, wasn't it?
Midnight Resistance, yeah.
Now, there's a few surprises. Straight away, this is £9.99. That isn't a surprise. Surprise is that it's got 90%. It was a sizzler, I'll grant you that. But, okay. This was published by Ocean, developed by our friends at Special Effects. They've done a few things in of themselves here and there, haven't they? Special Effects. And usually pretty good stuff. This was coded by Robert W. Tinman. No jokes. I'm not going to put any in. I refuse. He did Ark of Yesod, Cabal, and Red Heat. Okay.
But Cabal was good, but he also did Batman the Cape Crusader.
Yeah. I didn't say that one because I wanted to make sure Red Heat was mentioned. The graphics are by Ian Davis. He did Red Heat and Cabal.
So that means he can draw the top halves of men really well.
He does draw the top halves of men, burly men. And if you really want to see the burliest version of that game, by the way, go and check out the Amiga one. It burled me out. I was like, wow, okay, that is a lot of burl in one game.
Absolutely. Some very well-defined arse cheeks in that in that game, in that version.
It's strange. It's very strange that. It's a gym where they're all naked. I've never been to a gym like that. And even if I did, I wouldn't tell anyone. The title screen for this was also by Ian Davis, same guy that did Red Heat and Cabal, same guy. And the musician is Keith Tinman. Now, I didn't know there was the Tinmans. That's the Tin Men, I suppose, really.
It's Keith and Tin Man. Yeah, Keith
and Robert Tinman. They're Tin Men. If there's 2, there can't be Tin Men. They've got to be Tin Men, haven't they? Sorry, it's the rule of plurals. Anyway, and he did Heartland, the music for Heartland, which was always pretty good, as I remember it.
Yeah.
Very
knock that
twee. I
tune.
remember someone describing it as twee, and it is, but it's good. And he also did Cabal, and he did Sidewise. Do you remember that? Actually had pretty good music in Sidewise.
Yes, it did. Yes.
Box art credits go to Bob Wakelin. Of course it was Bob Wakelin. By the way, I solved a mystery from when we talked about why the cover of this issue of Zap was an ocean game, and instead of it being creatures, which we thought it probably would have been since it was the gold medal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason probably is that the cover art for creatures was created by Ollie Frey. Maybe he wasn't allowed. Who knows?
Oh, maybe, yeah, because it's a Thalamus game, wasn't it?
It was. Anyway, we're not talking about that. Stop talking about games we've already talked about, for goodness sake.
Get on
this
with
is
it.
This isn't Zap to the past. Anyway, Midnight Resistance then, or as it's also known, Midonai to Rejutsansu in Japan.
Okay.
It's a side-scrolling run-and-gun game produced by Data East. Of course it's by Data East. It's an arcade, and it's a big arcade. It was released in 1989. I've noticed that some of these arcade conversions we've come across recently have all been sort of around 1989. So maybe, and I'm just putting this out there, probably not, but maybe the Arcade Obscura has given up its last game. I don't know for sure. But these ones definitely are not from there.
No, this episode proves that with tests.
Midnight Resistance is set in a dystopian future. Is there any other kind, Adrian? Are they not always dystopian in the arcades? Where the player controls a member of a resistance movement who goes on a mission to rescue his kidnapped family from a drug kingpin.
What time does he go on it at?
I would guess around sometime at the night time, I think he probably starts. Might be a bit earlier than midnight, but then it would be pre-midnight anyway.
Quarter 12 resistance.
The main distinguishing feature for this, by the way, just in case you didn't know, on the arcade was its inclusion of the classic rotating joystick. Very popular that was back then. That was similar to the one that we used in Ikari Warriors. And in addition to the traditional set of shoot and jump buttons, it allowed the player to adjust his character's aim in one of 8 directions by rotating the stick counterclockwise or clockwise. This allows the player to keep their aim in one direction while moving in another, even while crawling or jumping. Nice touch, that. Something that you think, oh no, because I don't think we've really had a successful version of this kind of control on C64. Or maybe we have.
I'm getting Forgotten Worlds.
Exactly.
Spinny flashbacks.
The spinning of Forgotten Worlds. I thought I'd forgotten about that. In Japan, by the way, I know you like to know these things.
I do like
Game Machine listed Midnight Resistance on their December the 15th, 1989 issue as the 5th most successful table arcade unit of the month. Table arcade unit of the month.
5th.
We need a jingle for that, really.
Yeah, I thought it'd be higher.
I actually thought it would be. The Commodore 64 port received a score of 90%. Like I said, it was also voted in their top 100 C64 games ever made. I don't know what episode that's in, but I noticed it was on one of the blurbs that I've read. And for those that wonder, have I seen this kind of thing before? And scratch your chins a little. This is sort of based around Contra, I think, safe to say, right? So it's Contra style. It consists of an 8-way controller. There's, jumping around and movement. He can in somersaults in Contra, doesn't he? But this is Contra-esque, Contra-ish.
Run and gun.
But also a little bit contradictory. All right. You secure that shit, Hudson.
Oh, my COVID's come back. You've said the joke so bad you've made me iller.
That's how he got COVID in the first place.
It's your terrible jokes.
The scenario, thank you very much for this. A ruthless commissar, leader of a vicious regime of megalomaniacs, has kidnapped your family, including your grandfather, a world-famous scientist. Those bastards, don't kidnap Grandad. That's so mean.
It really is mean. He won't know where he is.
He won't. Hey, you don't want to kidnap mine. He's already dead. There's not much you can do to him.
No.
In a desperate bid for dictatorial power over the earth. All right. It seems a very niche way of trying to get that by just kidnapping a guy's family. Okay.
Does this guy's family have great power or something? He's just, if we get them, we can control the earth. Your plan doesn't make any sense.
His grandfather is a world famous scientist. It doesn't say what of. This is in that time when scientists are just all-encompassing, all-powerful scientists.
They know everything. Absolutely.
So I'm guessing maybe nuclear physicists anyway.
Maybe.
Can you rescue your relatives before the evil commissar forces your grandfather to use his superior weaponry research? In order to enforce his own tyranny throughout the planet? Can you pitch your wits against an obsessive army? Obsessive is a word you don't often see in there.
Obsessive.
They're torturous traps and a convoy of menacing machinery. Hey, that's how it works. That's it. That's how the game rolls. Pretty cool, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So here we are. C64 game created by Ocean, and it's an arcade conversion. Okay, but we have seen a little bit of an uptick recently with Ocean, haven't we? Because Chase HQ2 wasn't that bad.
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Right, wasn't that bad. Maybe they've turned a corner. Maybe they've stopped paying for reviews and they're just now being honest. We may never know the answer to those questions. We may never know.
Did I take this podcast for a quick book?
Tune in next week. Anyway, by the way, so there are 9 levels apparently in this game in total, which is the same amount as the arcade, I think. Now, there are a few things that are not in the C64 version that are obviously in the arcade. And you have to sort of just go with and accept right now. Let's just accept it. It's going to be only one player because it is. The arcade is obviously 2 players.
It is.
And there is some level details missing. But I can tell you something. That's it. Oh, and there's sound effects in game, which aren't in the C64 one in that way.
Yeah, true.
There's music. Yeah. But that is kind of that's it. That's kind of the payoff. I don't think that's a bad compromise. It's more or less what we've come to expect. But oftentimes what we get for the compromise is there's not as many levels or the levels are much shorter. I can tell you they're not. This is a good approximation in that way. So the game loads. Now, I had a cartridge version of this. It wasn't released on cartridge. It was released on disc, I think, and tape, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
But some bright spark with the right kit has put it onto disc or some kind of arcade compilation. So I played that one. I did play the disc one as well. I didn't find any other loading times particularly intrusive, actually. In fact, it was pretty fast for what it was, which is quite nice. There's a decent loading screen, and then you'll go straight into the nice, I say fairly simple arcade-style title sequence. Great music steps in here. So the music from Mr. Tin Man, boop, boop, is pretty good.
It is.
It's a version of the arcade score all the way through, and I have to say, impressed. It's quite actually reminded me that the music that's on the title screen for this reminds me of a Chris Hulsbeck style. It's got that, it's melodic. It's perhaps more melodic than you would expect. I was expecting thumpy, thumpy, smash, smash, and what I got was kind of melancholy and quite melodious, which I quite liked. Melancholy and melodious. Here they are, everybody.
Thumpy, thumpy, and smash, smash, and you got melancholy and melodious. You went to the right solicitors.
Yes, I did. So great music, nice style, simple arcade feel. The title is at the top, Midnight Resistance, written in the nice arcadey font. Guess it's like a logo, really.
Yeah,
and then you've got the basic credits, and then obviously the usual copyright blurb. Simple enough, but what does it need? What else does it need to do? There's a high score thing, I think, as well. That's a rolling thing. It's like an arcade. It's an arcade conversion. So you'll press the fire button to start the game. Now the controls for this are quite interesting. The game will start, obviously, and you are playing one of the 2 characters that are from the arcade. Now, I don't know what their names, but so we'll just call him Bob, because that's who it is. Yeah, but you're not playing Sam, who's the other one. Just making that up. And he starts on foot in the game. The other one starts in a Jeep. So you start on foot, and principally you have to run Green Beret style, I would say. This almost feels like a bit of a kind of really kind of a embiggened Green Beret in a lot of ways. And that's no bad thing, because it's got a lot of the tropes from that. So anyway, then the idea is that you're going to run along and do stuff. Now, how do you control it? Because in this game, it's important that we know this. Why? Well, remember what we said at the start about the arcade. The arcade had one of them twisty twisties, and you're like, well, C64, how on earth are they going to do this and make it playable? I could tell you something, Adrian. They succeeded with this.
They did.
First time I think it's the first time I've seen it properly done, where it actually worked well.
Maybe Ikari Warriors did, but
yeah, maybe a little bit. But I think on the scale of things, I think this works in the context of the speed and the running of the game and everything.
I think it works
pretty good.
Yeah.
So when you're standing, the top quadrant of the joystick, so up, left, up, right, that's jump. Left and right is walk or run, walk. I guess he runs more than walks, really, but traverse in those directions. And then any of the down, so down left, down right, middle down towards the bottom is crawl. And there are really nice animations to all of those. So when you jump, he jumps up in the air, but when you walk left, he's got a nice animation. More than 2 or 3 frames that we've seen in some of these games. So Strider, take note, you stupid piece of shit. I really don't like Strider. Sorry. I really don't like it. And then the crawling animation as well. It's, again, if you zoomed Green Beret in, you wouldn't be far off this, because that had that kind of thing as well, that kind of control, I believe.
Yeah.
And you can shoot from all of these aspects. So you can shoot constantly by pressing the fire button. Now, also, when you're crawling, you can crawl along and shoot, and then you push up to stand. So once you're into the crawl position, when you go left and right, you don't suddenly jump up again and start running left and right. You crawl left and right, and you can continue to do that, or you'll pop back up again. So, and again, you're shooting with the fire button. Now, if you hold the fire button down when you're standing, walking, or jumping, and you hold it, that will keep keep the shooting going, and then you can move the joystick around to shoot in different directions. So that means that if you're wanting to sort of jump and then shoot a different way, but still carry on the way you were going, you can do all of those things. Which I think that's the best way I can explain it. So you have a version of the controls on the arcade, so you can rotate the shooting by holding the fire button down, and then move the joystick around, and it will maintain that direction. I think that's the fairest way to express it, which I think is pretty cool. And it works really well in the game, which means you feel like from the get-go, you're in control. You're running along, you hold the fire button down, you need to shoot behind you, you can quickly do that or shoot an angle, and you don't really have a problem shooting. Really cool, that is. And then you've actually got a special backpack weapon. You'll get these as you go through the game, and I'll explain how in a minute. But to release your backpack weapon, you hit the spacebar. Again, not dissimilar, really, to Green Beret, actually, the controls.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is no bad thing. Green Beret, as we've said many times, I know you particularly, but the controls worked really well for that. And it was nippy and fast and everything else. There's parts in this game where you'll need to climb ladders and go up and down those and things like that. You simply do that by going in, and guess what? You don't have to do anything weird. When there's objects, if there's an object to pick up, like a key, which you pick up, you don't have to press down or down and fire or something stupid. You just run over it.
Yep.
And if to go up a ladder, guess what? You just press up. Hooray!
And there's quite a wide margin of you don't have to be pixel perfect either.
No, and you can even
too.
jump onto ladders as well and just continue up. And also you can run up slopes.
Yeah.
They've conquered the upslope problem.
in the same month, they conquered it.
Exactly. Now I know Strider did have that, so give it to Strider for that. But he did have that kind of weird knee flick where he went kind of as he went up the thing, and he more knee shuffled. So get lost, Strider. You don't do it. You don't do it. So the idea then of this game, quite simple. You traverse the very, I think, well-drawn background on the C64. One of the other things you're not going to get here is the arcade has parallax scrolling, so you've got kind of a nice distance effect between the big foreground and the background. You don't get that on the C64. You don't really care, naturally.
No.
They don't notice it that bad. So you'll run along to the right at the first level, and as you're doing that, you'll get constantly attacked by guys who jump in. Now, normally there's at least 2 or 3 on the screen at any time, sometimes more than that, depending on the level. And when you shoot them, they'll drop little red keys, which you can pick up. Now, the idea is that you can pick these keys up because they will form a way to upgrade your weapons when you get to the end of this. And they also act as a little bit of a shield as well, which is kind of cool. So the UI then, let's just talk about the game and the way it's laid out. So the top, I don't know, 4/5, maybe more of the screen. I guess it's about 4. The actual UI is the bottom 4 character rows, really. And that tells you your weapon or current weapons you have, the number of keys you've got, your current score, and the number of lives, which are little love hearts. Classic arcade stuff, really, and are pretty similar to the arcade, actually, in the way it looks. And so then you control this character. You run, you leap, you jump over little platforms. The levels are interesting. It isn't just running along boring enemies. So Golden Axe, take note. We don't have one enemy at a time here. They're running on, jumping in. There's also fixed enemy positions. So you get enemies with bazookas and things like that will fire at you, and you've got to kind of dodge the bullets and things and get out of the way. The bullets are dodgeable in this, so you don't get stray bullets that simply kill you. There are ways you can navigate, duck underneath, duck down, get out the way. Like Green Beret, you need decent reactions, but it's not insurmountable. So you'll run along, and the idea is to get to the end of the levels, and eventually you'll get to a point where you have to rescue one of the family members. Now, if I'm thinking correctly, they're trapped in some kind of like lightning thing, and then kind of a little body going up and down, and you have to unlock the sort of lightning barriers to release them at that, and then they get rescued when you do that. Pretty cool, but it's not an easy journey to get to that. No. So there's not only lots of enemies like that, you also get bosses, large-scale bosses, not blocky, not like big blocky, super enlarged sprites to make you go, nothing like that. These look like the arcade. These are big, giant trucks and vehicles that move backwards and forwards. You can jump readily around. There's at least I never saw any multiplexing problems or any sprite problems, no flickering that I really noticed of any kind.
There is a bit of... I saw some flickering, but it's not...
I never got any flickering when I played it, so you must... Maybe it was COVID. Maybe you just got... It is a symptom, seeing flickering sprites. I've read it somewhere.
Flickering. Are you suffering from shortness of breath?
And seeing sprites flickering.
Flickering C64 sprites. Then please test yourself.
It's a niche symptom, I'll grant you. It's niche. So you're running along. In the first level, the backgrounds are kind of an industrial complex. I think you're on a bridge, actually. And then you're working your way through and into the base. Now, it isn't just left to right. So this game does go as you get to the end of the level, you'll get doors and things that you need to shoot. Some of them are in the ground. You shoot them. You'll go down below ground, climbing down ladders, and you can actually shoot while you're on the ladders, which is a really cool thing to do. Really, I was really pleased when I was able to do that. So I was thinking, this is one of those games where I'm going to have to climb down and I'm stuck in a non-shooty position. And I'm pretty sure an able-bodied Rambo-esque soldier would easily be able to do that. And he can. Hooray, happy days. So you can climb up and down, shoot at different angles. In fact, you can shoot all the 8 directions pretty much from wherever you are in this game. Your bullets cross multi-levels as well, which means that they don't just stop in the ground, which means you can shoot enemies that are on different levels to you, which you'll need to do. And you'll work your way through the first level. And then eventually after the mini-boss or the boss, you'll get to a screen where you can, what's called the armory. So it's where you can upgrade your weapons. Now, if you've collected enough keys throughout the level off the people you've murdered, then you can swap those keys for upgrades. Now, if you happen to get hit too often when you've got your keys, he will drop the keys. And if you quickly go and pick them up, you'll get them back. But if you happen to take too many shots during that time, then you're going to lose one of your lives. So actually, there is a little bit of a, I guess you call it risk reward there. So getting that, you don't have to collect the keys. You don't have to collect any of them or all of them. You need to, if you want to upgrade and get further in this game, going to need to upgrade.
It's very hard not to. You'd have to actually avoid them because they're just there. You just shoot someone, it's there. You run through it. But
the idea is that you don't, actually, I say that as you get towards the end of the game, you do have to have the right amount of keys because you need to be able to get all of the various people rescued, and you need 6 keys to do that. But once you get to the armory, which is located at the end of each section. And remember, you can carry up to 6 keys in total at any given moment. And then you can go in the armory and you can switch it out for the different weapons. Now, there's different weapons. There's like triple shot, there's missiles, there's a speed up rate of fire, auto fire. You can get an extra life. And you have to trade off the number of keys you have and spend them. And this sequence is exactly like the arcade. I was really impressed. The only thing missing that was dissimilar to the arcade was that it didn't have the speech. So in the arcade, you run along, jump up, and it'll go fireball, or whatever. It'll give you the speech, shotgun. Yeah. In the C64, you've got this nice piece of music and some sound effects, no music, sorry. But you run along, jump up in the air, it goes, and it works the same way, but the graphics are pretty much identical. I mean, they're very close to the arcade at this point, and I was really, really impressed. And it's got all of that. So it has all of the upgrades, all of the weapons. Now, when you get some of the later upgrades, these aren't just like little small things. If you fire one of those things, it shoots giant sort of, I guess you'd not say arrows, but giant white laser beams. And they come downwards in kind of a different sort of straight down angle to the left and angle to the right. It doesn't affect the screen speed or the speed of the enemies on the screen. If you get the missiles, they're targeting missiles. So you press them and it zooms off and they go and zoom and hit the particular enemies. Yep. No slowdown there. Same as if you get one where it kind of rains the bullets down at different sort of in straight lines down the screen. Those activate in the same way that they work in the arcade. And there's no slowdown. I noticed there's no bugs or anything. It works the same. And that's pretty cool as well. So they haven't compromised on what makes the arcade great. The great thing about this arcade, and it wasn't one I played massively, I'll be honest, but the great thing about this arcade was that you felt powered up when you powered up. You could go into the armory, choose those different weapons, and when you came out, you felt a bit tooled up. There's even a flamethrower in there, I think, somewhere, and there's a few different ones.
There is, yes.
So you're tooled up, and then you go into the battle. Now, some of these levels, like I said, left to right, some are right to left. Some you have to go down and crawl through little passageways and things like that. Some of them you have to choose whether you're going to go down to a ladder and go down to the basement and go up. The backgrounds are very varied. They're very different. There's mixtures of sort of semi-industrial complex, underground caves, forest level with the trees and all that kind of thing. They're really nice. They're the same as the arcade, the same volume as the arcade. Granted, they don't have the same parallax effect scrolling. Maybe some of the details are lost. But what isn't lost is the playability of this. It isn't lost at all. So the idea then, go through those 9 levels and blast your way through, I guess, gung-ho style. I thought the levels are really varied as well. I like the fact they're multi-directional. There is no scrolling problems here, not unlike the other horrific versions. Now, if you want to frighten yourself, if you really want to frighten yourself, go and take a look at some of the other versions of this game, and it is mind-blowing how awful they are. Now, I can say with a certain sense of relief, the C64 version of Midnight Resistance is probably the best computer port out of them all. I'm not saying console because that belongs to the Mega Drive, because the Mega Drive and probably later versions, fair enough with it. But let's talk about 16 and 8-bit machines, okay? So C64, an 8-bit machine, all the arcade is there. There's a few details and it's only one player, fine. Atari ST, graphics might look nice, horrible sound effects, awful scrolling. Like you walk a bit and it scrolls a bit. It's like screen scrolling. What do we call that? It's
push screen.
Flick screen.
Push screen. Flick screen scrolling.
Push screen scrolling on a 16-bit machine. It blew my mind. if you really want your mind blowing and also your eyeballs rearranging, go and see the Amstrad version. Ooh, it's horrible.
Yeah,
So, and the Spectrum version, equally so. The Spectrum 1 to 8 version, okay, it's got sound and music, if you can call it that. But the graphics are horrible, bitty, and it's also got that push scrolling. The Amiga version does scroll like the C64 one, but it's really dark. They actually brought out a code correction version of that because it was too dark. So they brought out an enlightened version, an enlightened version. Weird. Imagine bringing that. Oh, sorry, the game was too dark. Turn the lights on. The Amiga version with the lights on. And the music and the sound effects are crap on the Amiga version. All right, so it looks the part, doesn't sound it though. And that's a bit of a letdown. You need it to be a bit of both. And then obviously you get to the Mega Drive version, which kind of rules the roost because it's pretty much the exact same as the arcade. I mean,
yes, it is. It's very good.
But it's really, really good. But the C64 version is the best home computer port by a mile. Great. The music all the way through these levels, by the way, and it varies from level to level. Brilliant. Drives the action on. Yes, maybe you could say you argue that you're missing the sound effects from the machine gun and things like that. Maybe a bit. But in actuality, as long as the music is the right music, it's not annoying, it's not going to drill into your brain, and it kind of drives the action on, and the levels aren't too long, which they are long-ish, but not too long. And then it changes, and the music changes when you go to a different thing and the boss. So as long as that happens, I can live with that. When you go when you've got one bit of music on maybe a minute 20 loop, it's going to slowly drive your crackers, isn't it? So we've got the same bosses as the arcade, endo level bosses, lots of multi-directional game and scrolling, really nicely engineered backgrounds, loads of multiple different types of enemies, crawling, walking, climbing on ladders, shooting at you from every direction, following you as well, which is really cool. I really like the fact that they follow you around as well. This is a really close arcade conversion for the C64. In fact, I'd argue possibly one of the best C64 arcade conversions we've seen in terms of pound for pound, how much this is like the arcade. Like I said at the start, you're missing some very small things, but do you miss them? I didn't when I played it. I had a lot of fun with this. The whole game is here. It's supremely playable and fun, and it kept to that playability. It has the arcade tonality, all of the gameplay, and the controls finally make this a very solid and capable port of a nice game. And so finally we see the formula has become good. Now, I really liked what I played here. Everything about it felt really, really complete. And for once, I walked away from an Ocean game thinking, maybe that deserved higher than 90%. Now, it's not often you'll say that. No. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just going to agree with you. Like I said, it's an arcade week. And there's what better way to start arcade week than the massive bang that is Midnight Resistance? This is the stuff I've been expecting all year after Retrograde. We started off with, the start of the year with something like Retrograde. And both you and I said, oh, cool, there's going to be loads of good stuff in 1990 because hopefully the good program has arrived. And it's taken a while. And it's taken almost until the last episode of the year to really get my adrenaline flowing again in the game, which this game does. It's great. I mean, I encountered a little bit of flickering sometime on the tank and stuff like that, but it plays brilliantly, smooth controls, really satisfying run and gun action. That's the great thing about this. It gets the run and gun action. Doesn't overwhelm you. There's no too many, thousands of enemies just spawning on it constantly. You can take them out. The way you do everything, the graphics are top notch. As you know, the fact that it scrolls smoothly, proper scrolling with you, and not just horizontally, both vertically and horizontally. Take that ST version and Amstrad and Spectrum. From the get-go, none of that horrible push screen scrolling. It's a godsend. No. It just plays perfectly. I had never played this before. I don't think I may have played it once, twice in the arcade, but I'm not really familiar with this. So this was something of a massive, huge surprise to me. I knew the game had a strong reputation. It's 8+ on Lemon, and often cited in the best games on the machine sort of thing. But I've seen that before and come away underwhelmed. So I came in with a bit of trepidation, but it had no chance. No. It's an incredible conversion from the arcade. It knocks things like Bad Dudes and all that rubbish into a cocked hat and then shoots them into the sun. It's like away with you. This is how you do it. And and I've not even mentioned the music in this, which is fabulous. It's talk about something to drive you on. I was playing it. I was like, God, this is great. So good. I put headphones on. Not often I put headphones on these days for a C64 game, but I wanted it in my ears properly, and I was like, this is ace.
Yeah, it is pretty good, isn't it?
We've said time and time again that music maketh the game, and once again, here we are with a great pulsating action tune that complements the on-screen action perfectly. What do you want? It's perfect.
One of the better versions as well, because none of the others really capture that.
It is the best version. I was lucky enough, like you, to play the cartridge version. I mean, that even made it even more special. Maybe, I did check the disc version out, and that's fine. I don't know what it'd been like on tape, but the cartridge version, allows that constant action and forward motion that you're constantly running and gunning and you're constantly doing new stuff, which is, great in the arcade, but cool to do in this. Like you said, you start off, you're thinking this is left to right, you get to a boss, you shoot the boss, you jump over the bullets, then you climb up, shoot the thing, and then you don't just go through a door, you blast the doors open. That's such a great little thing. And I know it's in the arcade game as well, but that thing of like, no, the doors are shut to me, but I can just shoot the hell out of them and blow them up. That's cool. That makes you feel powerful. And then you run through it, and then you get cool weapons, and you have a choice of weapons. Not always the same choice as well. They're different and randomized. So that's cool because it adds a little bit of variety to the whole thing. Then you're where you're next, you drop along, and then you're going down through sort of tiny caverns with sort of rotating cogs going back and forth and collapsible floors and stuff. Then you're going up a tree in a lift, fighting people on jetpacks. Then the way that some of these big bosses come on, like the way that you get to the top of that and the kind of screen just sort of wipes to sort of reveal the bosses and the cogs and stuff. And then you fight at one point, you're shooting jet fighters coming in to fight you. Then at one point you're fighting a massive battleship. I mean, this game is not short on set pieces. And like you said, none of them feel blocky. None of them feel crap. They're all great experiences. So loved it. This is great. And I'm just going to go out and say it. There should have been a gold medal. Yeah. It should have been, in my opinion.
I agree.
It should have been a gold medal for the fact you can run up slopes, but that just cements the cherry on top of a very tasty cake here. And like I said, the mix of weapons, all very clever, loads of variety. I don't know, maybe it didn't get a gold medal because it's a multi-load. The levels, maybe they said they were a bit short, but I don't know. I think, and maybe I'm sort of coming at this with a cartridge version, but I don't know. But I don't care. This is hugely playable. And on that measure alone, it stands head and shoulders above most conversions of this type of thing. We've looked at Grisor, we've looked at like Bad Dudes. I mean, less said about, I know it wasn't an arcade game, but things like Renegade 3. There's been other sort of run and gun crap fests where they've been rubbish, just crap versions of it. Dragon Ninja, was it? That sort of the long and thin one, the wide
that
thin
was another one. Yeah.
I mean, just rubbish. But this doesn't, this is way better. And maybe it's because the source material is better, but they could have, this could have been terrible. Strider should have been good. And this, you just look at Strider with so much side eye after playing this. You're like, see this? Oi, see this? This is what you should have been like. Okay. I can see there's huge influences. I think Turrican probably maybe took quite a lot from this, maybe in the arcade, after playing that and this. But I think this is better than Turrican. Personally, I enjoyed this more than I did Turrican. I thought it was brilliant. Best conversion of this type of game since Green Beret. I think it's an evolution of Green Beret, and it's in the arcade, and it's an evolution of Green Beret on the C64. And I think that's I've not been shy in coming forward with my opinion on Green Beret on C64. I think it's brilliant, and it's got 8-way shooting done properly. Like you can jump and in the air fire in all 8 directions, just pushing a different direction, and you can shoot up, down, left, right. And like a lot of the time, I was just jumping up in the air and shooting the people on the floor below me. And I felt, that's cool. This feels like an action thing. This is really cool to do. These actions are cool, and it felt ace. Take note, Forgotten World with your spinny. Midnight Resistance. What a cracker. What a cracker in the last episode. We always get one right at the end, don't we? We always get one.
We get a banger. We get a banger at the end.
We get one that sort of pops up and goes, oi, hey, what about me? And we're like,
exactly. And I think as I've looked at this issue of Zapped, because of course this is the same issue we've had Creatures in,
and Space,
and that
Chase
got the gold
HQ.
medal, and Chase HQ. I would have given this the gold medal, not Creatures. Actually,
I would have as well. This is far more fun to play. Creatures may look better, and I don't disagree with that. And technically, it is. No. This is way more fun to play. Yeah,
it is.
So that's just the Zapped to the past view, and I think you can take that to the bank. So there you go, Midnight Resistance, corker.
It is a corker.
Corker. There you go. We're not always down on the classics of the C64. Let me tell you that. Right, there we go. That's Midnight Resistance. We've still got one more this half. Let's move on to that. Well, we're still in the arcade. We're just, it's a trip to the seaside.
We're not going out. We're not leaving the arcades.
No, we're not. Now we've walked over to the slightly more obscure part of the arcade. And this is Badlands. Another arcade barrel of fun is rolled our way. That is Badlands. This is £9.99. And this scored a rather disappointing 41% in the magazine. And it scored it twice, but I'll come to that later. Badlands was originally released in the arcade by Atari, and you'll know this if you ever played it. And I did that today. I had to gave this crack on the arcade on MAME because it's got those Atari sound effects, that great, that greet you when you deposit a coin and so on. It's like bong, bong. When you're walking through an arcade, I said it before, I'll say it again, no one had sound effects like Atari did back in the arcade.
No.
You could hear Atari games from a mile off.
You're not wrong.
And the arcade did that. C64 version, not so much. So the original version of this in the arcade, this was I sort of did a bit of digging, designed by Kelly Turner. Quite sadly, Kelly Turner, he passed away back in 2005. He was only 43.
Oh,
that's no age, is it? He worked on loads of stuff, and I mean, he did Championship Sprint, Super Sprint. We're working in games since 1976. So that's quite sad when I found that out. He was aided on the coding by Norma Vella in the arcade. And this ran on the Motorola 68000 and a second MOS 6502 as well. And the sound, of course, was the Yamaha YM2151. There you go. C64 version, copyrighted by Atari and Tengen. We've covered that kind of weird copywriting, who produced who begets who.
Gets who.
Loads of times in the past. And it was published by Domark. Now, this was produced by Tiki Software.
Oh, God.
So, and coded by Stephen Collins. And the musician was Matt Furness. And the box art was by Padge, Peter Andrew Jones.
Okay.
We've seen Tiki Software before, haven't we? Such laudable lows as Chase HQ, Chubby Gristle, and Continental Circus.
Chubby Gristle was that one. You loved that, didn't you, as I recall?
I hated that. They all begin with C as well. Chubby Gristle, Chase HQ, Continental Circus. If a game comes from Tiki Software, begins with C, it's going to be crap. There you go. But they also did
put that on your t-shirts.
But they also did Pac-Mania and Blasteroids.
They did.
Which means they can turn out decent stuff from time to time. And Stephen Collins, well, he did the, I don't know if you remember, Herobotics back in 1987. Yeah. He did that. Yeah, and that was okay. It was like a budget Houston game. So this could go either way. Who knows? Badlands itself is the third game in the Sprint series, as far as I'm aware, after Super Sprint and Championship Sprint. So that means it's a single-screen racing game with multiple opponents attempting to come first as they navigate the twisty track in front of them. It's one of those top-down single-screen racing games. Now, interestingly, in the arcade, for some reason, this did not use the same resolution, and this has a bearing on this game, right? Because this did not use the same resolution as the previous two games, Championship and Super Sprint. This used a standard resolution instead of a medium resolution, which led to the cars being somewhat larger and the tracks feeling somewhat smaller. And there only being 3 cars on the track instead of the previous game's 4. So, resolution had an impact. And there is some kind of justification. There is some kind of justification for this whole game, not for using a smaller resolution. There's a story behind this and what Badlands actually is, and does feed into the game itself. And it goes thus. It's now 50 years, Graham, since the nuclear disaster. Another one. And the sport of sprint racing has evolved into a ruthless battle between armed cars. Racetracks have been built on dangerous ruins, the aftermath of the Holocaust, in the zone known as the Badlands. Your objective is to race around the 8 different tracks as fast as possible, collecting wrenches, that's spanners to you and me, along the way in order to continue to the next round. Failing to finish first means instant disqualification. Missiles can be found hidden around the tracks behind destructible scenery. In the Badlands, even mountains will crumble if shot at. Between the tracks, and assuming you have collected enough wrenches, or spanners, you can customize your car with extra acceleration shields or weapons. Bonus wrenches are awarded for finishing first and beating the fastest lap. So, when the game loads up, after quite the slowder, it's a bit of a slowder, this one. It took a while. I was like, is this actually doing anything? I had to turn the warp speed on. We get a rather uninspiring title screen. It's got the logo of the game at the top on an all grey screen. Never use grey for an all your screen. It's just boring, isn't it? Grey screen's boring. Make it black. It stands out better. You got a high score table and credits underneath this, sort of cycling between them. And I sort of checked this. It looks like the basic Commodore font, which I think it was, which is never a good sign of care and attention to detail. I'm like, do a new font. The music by Matt Furness is okay, but it's nothing special, I have to say. It's just okay. Pressing fire on either joystick, there's no options. Well, there's no options just yet, but pressing fire on either joystick brings up a small menu where you can select from control system A or B for either joystick. and this is a nice touch for player affordance. They've actually put in 2 different control systems here. So control system A sees you holding down fire to accelerate, left and right to turn the car, and it's down to fire. Okay, fair enough. There's a further control system B has you pressing up to accelerate, left and right to steer, and fire button to fire. Okay. There's a further difference in the controls as well. If you use system B, then once you've sped up, you can let go of, you can stop pushing up because it'll maintain your speed. So that's kind of handy. System A needs you to hold down the fire button at all times to maintain your speed. So you can just, I found myself using system B probably more because I could just speed up to full speed and then just continue to worry about the steering, and pressing fire to shoot the guns felt more intuitive. So, use whichever you think if you want to play this, but I found B was the better one for myself. As noted, this does actually contain a 2-player game. So, as it said, you can change the joystick controls. Both of you can have different joystick controls. That's cool. And once you press fire and sorted them out, you basically get a countdown from 9 to 0, just like in the arcade. And player 2 can join the race by tapping their fire button. If you're only playing a single player, you can just speed this up by hammering your fire button. Again, just like you would in an arcade game by pressing usually the credit button, isn't it? And sort of to get through the countdown quicker. And so that's cool. Feels like an arcade game. When the countdown is done, we're into the game. And it's like, this is a single load as far as I can make out, but there's like between each phase, each screen, there's like a small black screen pause. I guess what it's doing is it's unpacking the level, load it into memory, so something. I guess that's what's happening. I'm not technical on these kind of things, but from what I've sort of read around and things like that, that's kind of, the people going, they're unpacking stuff. And so maybe that's what it's doing. It's just when they've got it all stored in memory in certain parts. So when the first level appears, initial impressions, they're not good. I'll leave discussion of the visuals for later, though. The first track is simple enough, and it's just like the arcade. There's 3 cars, red, blue, and green. They're at the top, and like I said, it's identical in layout to the arcade. And the actual the racetrack itself, the level, takes up most of the screen, and the UI is at the bottom, taking up a couple of character lines. And it's got a bit of a weird bug in this, in that there's a box with a V in it on the left. Mm. Okay. Now, upon checking this and sort of playing through it, I believe this is your score, but for some reason it can't do zeros. So it's replaced zeros with a V.
That's strange.
And so I don't know. And I checked on YouTube and other versions of this, and I don't know. It's not a bug in this one. So no idea why this is there. It just doesn't display a 0. So instead of 100, you have 1VV. Or 1v1, it's like weird, and it's counting up, and it's very odd, and that goes through onto the next screen as well. But it's your score. So, but when you get back to the title screen, if you put your name in on the high score table, it shows your proper score. Very odd. Next, we've got the number of spanners or wrenches you have. That's next to the score and the lap you are on. Next, then there's a couple of little boxes, and they're for the drone cars. So if you're playing on your own, next is the lap info for the green car. So it basically tells you what lap they're on. Then the lap info for the red car. You're in blue, and your lap number is in blue. The green one is in green. The red one is in brown for some reason. I didn't understand why.
No, and you never will.
Just put it in red.
It's just dumb.
It's like, oh. And then on the bottom right, there's an instruction to player 2 to press 5 to join in, which they can at any time, which is, again, nice. The game itself is simple enough. You're having to make it around 4 laps, and you have to come first to progress. If you do not come first, then at the end of the race, you lose one of your 2 extra credits, and it doesn't matter if you come second or third. You don't lose 2 credits for coming third, you just lose 1. So, but you lose a credit. If you run out of those and you don't come first, then it's game over for you. So you've got no credits left, you don't win a race, game over. As noted, you can shoot the other cars if you're driving. This kind of stuns them a little bit. It doesn't really do much to them, but you just sort of try to allow. And I'd say it tries to allow you to pass them, but we'll come to the passing parts in a little bit. And as you said, you can collect bonus spanners, wrenches, whatever, that appear on the track as well. It's very Super Sprint. It's exactly the same. It's just a post-apocalyptic Super Sprint. Now, supposedly, as it says in the instructions, you can blast scenery as well to reveal stuff. I didn't. I blasted everywhere. I couldn't find anything, but maybe I just didn't blast the right space. When the first car completes 3 laps, you get a little white flag appear next to the sort of checkered line, and that tells you that someone's into the last lap. And then after that, the first car to reach the finish line on their 4th lap is the winner. The race stops immediately, and your position at 1st, 2nd, or 3rd is where you are on the track at that moment. That's how this works. Okay. After this, we cut to the winner's podium, where the 3 cars are shown in first, second, and third place. Winner in the middle, second on the left, and third on the right. And they're color code. They are the proper colors as well. So the right color for each car is in the top wherever they came in the race. You get extra points for where you placed. Obviously, you get more points for coming first, and you also get an extra spanner if you came in first as well. If you didn't come in first, then you need to press fire if you've got any continues left. If you wish to do so, you can just quit, let it go, and don't continue. You go back to the title screen, start again. But this is what it is. Once this is done, there's another small black screen pause, and then we can upgrade our car depending on if you have enough spanners. So you need at least 3. If you don't have 3, then you skip this screen and just go straight to the next race. And if you do, then your controller's steering wheel, and both player 1 and player 2 do this on the screen at once. It kind of splits the screen down the middle. On the left is player 1, and on the right is player 2. Or on the left is the blue, on the right is the red one, and they're color coded as well. And you kind of spin your wheel across sort of half the screen, and it points. There's 5 segments, so you move your joystick left and right, and it'll spin through the segments, and then you can choose what you want. So you've got 5 options. You can add missiles to your car, 4 of them, up to 4 of them, which I think fire when you press fire. You can increase the tyre's grip, which allows you to corner better. You can increase the turbo for your car for faster starts. You can increase the speed for better top speed, and you can also add shields. Okay, all of these cost 3 spanners. Once you've spent them all, or you've only got 2 or 1 left, it just kicks you out, and the next track appears, and you do it all again. There are 8 tracks to get through, as I said, which get increasingly tricky. Introduce shortcuts, openings in the walls, and things like that, which you can try and get through. Spikes that raise from the floor that stop you. There's oil spills, water on the road, all kinds of stuff. It's that kind of game. We've played these sort of things before. It's like I said, it's apocalyptic, championship sprint, super sprint. So you'll know that the deal. It's those kind of things. And as you progress, the other cars get faster and better at navigating the course as well. So it gets harder as it goes on. Also, if you smash the car up too much, if you crash into walls or the cars too much, then you will explode. And if you do, a helicopter will come flying on and drop another car for you back on the track. That's actually not too dissimilar. I imagine that's in the arcade, but that reminded me of Lucky 2 in Mario Kart. Who did the same sort of thing, which obviously goes back to these kind of games, I guess. So that's it. As arcade conversions go, this has all the elements of the arcade in it, and it does. Everything from the arcade is here, everything. And it's all in a single load, as far as I could tell, which is pretty impressive. So I think we said that with Blasteroid, and I think we said that with Pac-Mania. All the arcade is in this. All the tracks are here, the multiplayer is here, the upgrades and their effects all work. I thought the controls were pretty responsive, and whilst it might not quite have the zip of the arcade game, it's not so slow that it feels annoying like that Hot Rod did. The option to have 2 control methods is also a good touch, but there are a couple of issues, though. So the main one for me, and this may be really surface or anything like that, is the way it looks. It kind of really puts you off at first. This is not what you would call a pretty game. And the problem with that is that in some way this is down to the source material. I played the arcade as well today, and the arcade game, whilst it looks better, it's higher res and it looks nicer, it's all browns and blacks and greys and yellows. It's all post-apocalyptic. And so those kind of colours are not you're not given a lot of opportunity to do some nice colour shading on the C64 when you've got browns and yellows and blacks and greys. Doesn't really sort of translate very well to the machine, but that's what the source material did. And so it leads to a really dull palette of colours being used on the C64 for a lot of the tracks. A couple of them are not, but they're later ones and they're hard to get to. So the overwhelming impression of this is a bitty brown and grey drab affair. And it's not much fun to actually look at. The cars are boxy, lack any kind of decent detail on them. They spin all right and they sort of animated all right as they go round. They move fine. And again, like the arcade, they feel a little too big for the track, and thus passing is a pain, which leads to my next issue, which is one that plagues most of these games we've come across. It's too easy to get bumped and knocked into the side, lose speed or spun around by the other cars all the time. You'll try and pass them, you'll knock them, they won't budge, you'll get spun off. And you'll get spun off sometimes at 90 degrees into a wall. And you're like, and because, remember, and that's kind of a pain. And it's quite hard to spin your car, get out of certain places. In fact, quite often the CPU would get stuck on the walls and just be sort of juddering there because it can't get away. So that happens as well. And it can happen to you too when you try, because there's no reverse. So you kind of spin your way out, but you go, no, and then you get blown up. So, Okay. And sometimes you just get stuck, which then means, because the other car will just race away. Remember, it only takes one car to finish, which means the race is lost, the credit is gone, and you could have made them needed that later on, because the races get tough later on. But, this is something we've said about most of these games. Even Iron Man Stewart's game was not immune to this, with getting bounced around and stuff like that. The sound as well, it's nothing to write home about. It's got 3 channels of droning engines, and they're just, I think each car's got its own drone. So it's like in 3 channels. There's the odd skid sound as you go around corners, tightly, or there's a jingle as you finish or pick something up. It's nothing to write home about from an oral point of view. It's what you'd expect. But so like Blasteroids before it, this is, it's an okay port of an average arcade game that is probably not as good as its predecessors. Blasteroids are probably not as good as Asteroids. Badlands is not as good as either Championship Sprint or Super Sprint, in my opinion. And the problem is it's been passed through a serious C64 filter that at times makes it look, it looked to me like some of the backgrounds, they may have even been digitized because they have that digitized bitty look where they thought, we'll just try and, but I'm not sure they are, but it has that look.
Yeah, I agree.
At times, there are some little nice touches. And the most interesting one is the masking, because you can drive past under certain objects because you've kind of got a 3D view of the world. So at first I thought you had to drive around a bit right at the very beginning, but you actually can, that's not sticking up. So you can drive past it and you'll kind of go underneath it to give that 3D visual of it, which is nice. There's some nice masking in this. And so you drive under bridges and things like that, and that all works really well. And if you crash under a bridge as well, it'll show the little puff of smoke where you're crashing, so you can kind of figure out a way to actually try and get out. That's actually good as well. There's a mesh bridge on a later level, which they could have easily just not done, but they did. And you drive under it, and it shows your car through the mesh.
It does.
That's actually
nice touch.
That is a really, really nice graphical little touch. That is. I thought that was cool. But on the whole, whilst this is probably the best port they could do in a single load, it suffers for me because the design of the original was not as good as the original Super Sprint. And I don't think adding weapons really adds that much to it. But I also think adding spikes that come up from the ground is just plain stupid. They come up and you're stuck. You're like, oh, I now have to sit and wait for them to go down. Just kills the game dead. So it's a stupid idea. Also, what happens is the other cars catch you up as well when you're waiting there. And then as soon as they go down, they just slam you into a wall. It's like, that's a really bad design decision that should have never got past anybody playtesting this. But, that's the main bit. I did have a little enjoyment here because the handling is nice, actually, once you get a bit of speed turbo and the wheels upgraded on the car. And it's nice that those upgrades do physically and tangibly affect the handling. You go faster from the start line with the turbo, you go faster out top speed with the speed ups, and you corner better with the tyres. That's cool. I think 41% is a bit harsh. I would have had this somewhere around the 60 mark, not much higher. I think it's a 2/3 game for me. It's somewhere around about there. So I didn't mind this. At first I was like, ugh, but then I played it and I was like, it's all right, but it's just a good conversion or okay conversion of something that was never that great in the arcade in the first place. Just one last thing, though. One last thing. For some strange and odd reason, Zapped reviewed this again in issue 70. Same text.
Random.
For the C64, not the Amiga version. Same text.
Weird.
Same comments from the reviewers. It's exactly the same. The only thing is, though, one of the reviewers leaves in issue 68, one of the ones who puts a comment on this one, and they've got a different comment. They've got a different reviewer giving the same text in issue 70.
It's all falling apart.
That's a bit weird, isn't it? So I don't know what's going on. And it has a screenshot from the Spectrum version. Go look at issue 70.
Wrong.
Go. You can link. It's linked to. It's issue 70. It's linked to on Lemon. This is how I found it. I went, why are the two reviews so close together? So I clicked on the second one. Went, why have they reviewed this again with the same text? Different reviewer saying the same thing about how much he doesn't like a certain thing. It's like, well, this was the other guy who said this 2 issues ago, and you've got a picture of the Specky version. Weird. I had no idea what happened there, but something obviously did. I don't know why it's in issue 70, February 1991. But there you go. That's Badlands. What did you think?
Well, I'm not going to add a lot to what you've said because I agree with everything you've said. I know it's a bit of a cop-out, but what am I supposed to say? I feel the same way. There was parts of this I liked. It's not bad. It's not a bad game. I thought it was a bit outdone to at 41%, actually. Yeah. And I quite liked, there was parts of this I quite liked. So it was the first time I'd played one of these games where I felt I really had control of the car.
Mm-hmm. The handling is good.
So I was really handling it around the corners, What really annoyed me with this game quite quickly is that the other players, when you're playing it one player and you've got computer players, they're just, it's not that they even get in the way. They are hampered in a way that you are not. Or should I say, you are hampered in a way they are not, sorry. So if you're trying to get past them on a bend and they touch you, you stop. They don't, but you do. So everything about that logic makes the game stupider. Because you can't, you could be, because you actually function at the beginning, I think slightly faster than the CPU players. Yeah. So you can catch them up. Finally, we've got a game where if you make a mistake, you can actually catch them up. That's great. I quite like the dystopian scenery and the levels looked okay. The car sprites were quite nicely done. The slight elevation and the shadow underneath them gave them a nice viewpoint, which was better than top-down boring. I like the fact that you could see through things, and that's good. And the controls were really nippy, and I was able to scoot around. These games, by the way, control much better on keys than they do on joystick, just so you know.
Yeah, probably.
But either way, so I'm racing around. The minute I touched one of the other cars when I'm trying to go past, I just went, zoop, and it brought me to a halt, or it nudged me, and I was stuck in scenery. But that one, just the computer car just carried on. Now, so they can never be prevented unless they do something stupid themselves. You can never prevent them from progressing, but they can always prevent you from progressing. And I thought that was a really daft idea in what was probably a fun game. Now, I imagine multiplayer, that's actually pretty good. And I've never seen it in the arcades knowingly.
No.
So, yeah, I liked it. I thought the scoring of the V, or the sort of say the lower part of the O, because they obviously didn't draw the top bit, was weird. I know it was a quirk. So I spent, when you're on the start, you're on lap V. I was like, okay.
Actually, I didn't realise it's probably just the latter part of the O, bottom part.
They just haven't drawn the full O, just for some reason. I don't know. They'd have drawn that character say into the C64. I don't know.
But it's on the title screen.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's in there. I don't know. Who knows? And who knows? But I liked what I played. I think had this been a budget game, this would have smashed it out the park.
Yeah, probably.
Because I think at this price, I know it's an arcade conversion, but in 1990, we've seen other games that can do similar to this for budget. And they weren't bad. I do like this one, though. I like the way it played. I like the variety of the levels. I was able to get round and do stuff. And I was able to actually finish races. It's unusual in these kind of games. And all the little extras, like you said, the spanners and all the rest of it, that's, it captured the parts of the arcade it needed to. And what was there was very playable. There's just those few niggly things that were in there and some daft choices along the way. Did it deserve gold medal status? No, but it certainly did. It's better than 41%, I think. And I enjoyed playing it because it was the first time I ever felt I could really control a game of this kind of control, which is kind of that rotating joystick notion, isn't it? So it's not like rotating controls, I guess, and speed up is up, essentially. Yeah. I liked what I played. The car choice colours were weird, but...
Well, they're the same as the arcade.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're just weird, but... for a single load, there's a lot packed in here, isn't there? I thought it was good. I just thought I felt a bit bad for it because it felt like it got a bit of a hard done to review. But even the review itself is a bit nondescript. It's a bit non-committal. Now, it's certainly not. A 41% game is 60% crap, isn't it? Let's be honest. This isn't that. This is not that. So make of that what you will. No. I thought it was all right.
When it gets re-released, I think it gets re-reviewed in the magazine later in like issue 89. A couple of years time, it got 80% when it was released on budget.
That's probably about right, actually, for an issue, for a budget game.
The reviewer says that he thinks that the reviewers back then just didn't like these kind of games, and in fact, one of the reviewers who's in it saying like, "What's the like in this game? You just drive."
Yes.
You drive. What is it? Go past obstacles and steer left and right. What's the like? I'm like, that's every driving game ever. That's
what do you want?
That's Gran Turismo and Forza and iRacing. It's like you just press the accelerator and go left and right. Like that's driving.
Naivety and there's a tonal shift in Zapped happening. You're starting to see it in the editorials. There's a certain sense of immaturity has crept in, and it's really sort of surfaced itself in some of the way things are written, which have been frankly quite offensive, actually, in modern lens. Yeah. But more importantly, some of these reviews, they used to be more hit and miss than in terms of the where they were positioning the percentage. Now they're just very personal. I don't like it, so therefore I'm giving it a bad review. And it doesn't feel like they're actually examining the game. They're just kind of checking their favourites list and the checklist of favourites. That ain't how you should review something. I always review that way, by the way, just so you know. So I'm not practicing what I preach. I literally hate most of these games. No, I don't really. I give every game a shot.
You review what's in front of you, not what...
I do.
And you can't. No one can be entirely 100% objective. You always bring a bit of subjectivity to it. But if a game is good, you appreciate that it's decent, even though it may not be for you.
Yes, and that's a very different trope to, I don't like racing games, therefore this is crap.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like football games, but I admit that some of those football games are very playable, and in the right hands, I don't doubt people have a good time. Not all of them, though, but some of them.
Some of them, yeah. I'm not a massive like point and click fan, but I can appreciate Zack McCracken and Maniac Mansion and those kind of things because I know that they're very well put together and clever games. They're just not. That's
ironic because I control your life via point and click, which I'm doing right now.
I know you do. It's very annoying.
More COVID. Click. More COVID.
It's very annoying. Put halibut in washing machine. Not again.
Breathe heavily near COVID person.
Well, the only good thing that's going to come out of this COVID is that hopefully I won't get it at Christmas again because I'll be immune. I'll be super immune. I'm just going to go breathe on. Yeah, exactly. So I won't get it. There we go. Anyway, that's our first 2 games. We've still got loads more to come. Cinema, 2 more games, 4 crapverts.
Goodness me, that's a lot of crap.
Charts and a sort of bit of an end-of-year roundup. So loads more to come. We're going to go take a quick break. I'm going to catch my breath, and we'll come back to talk about films at cinema in December 1990. Stay with us. And we're back. We're back for films that you could have gone seen through the month of December. And, well, let's start with one of the, Christmas biggie. This is Home Alone, 7th of December. Home Alone came out. What do you say about Home Alone? A perennial Xmas favourite, I guess.
Yes, it is. This came out in November in the US.
Yeah. That's,
Which was, so I suppose sort of makes sense. But yeah, I mean, you can't argue with Home Alone. I love it. I still watch it every year. Yeah,
it always gets watched at our house every year. Yeah. It's a Christmas favourite. There's a good making of this on the Movies That Made Us on Netflix. Which is worth a watch because really goes into depth and detail about how it nearly never got made and how they built the house inside a school to film it and stuff. It's a really good making of. It's become a bit of so many memes, so many stuff. It's spawned how many sequels? 3 or 4?
3, at least 3. Well, is there a more recent one? But there's at least 3 or 4.
Yeah, it must be sort of thing. It made shit ton of money as well, didn't it? I mean, on a budget of 18 million, it took 476,684,675, which is really exact worldwide.
Yeah, I mean,
adjust that
amazing,
for inflation.
Really. And it's crazy money. I mean, and rightly so. It's a perfect combination of things. It's a combination of Christmas, and it captures that really well. Even if it's a US Christmas, there's enough of Christmas about it to make it, a Christmassy film, if you like that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
You've got a really good story, a simple story, but a really good one, and the right people. Macaulay Culkin's the exact right character to play that role of Kevin McAllister, and the rest of the family perfect in those roles. I mean, this is arguably the testing ground for this was Uncle Buck.
Yes, very much so. Yeah,
a little bit, because he's the same sort of kid in Uncle Buck, and even John Candy, is in Uncle Buck playing a different role because he's in Home Alone. He plays the guy with the polka band, doesn't he, in the back of the van? polka.
Yeah,
we had a big hit, polka, that one. But that's what I like about Home Alone. And of course, you've got the best bad guy you could possibly get. If you're going to get a bad guy, somebody to play it, get Joe Pesci to do it.
Yeah. From the very outset when he turns up as the cop, doesn't he? In the opening sequence. And I mean, it's the partnership of John Hughes, Chris Columbus, always going to be good. John Hughes wrote the script in this for over a weekend. I find that incredible. There's a bit in that sort of making of where they're talking about it, and they say, he'd just go away and write a script over a weekend, and it'd be Ferris Bueller. Ferris Bueller he wrote in 7 days.
You can, I looked at his film list. I mean, the film list is incredible. If you go back and look at the list of John Hughes produced films, I mean, obviously they're not all directed by him. But if you take a look, it starts with Class Reunion, then you've got, Mr. Mum. Then it's straight away National Lampoon's Vacation, which was brilliant. Savage Islands, not so much. Then you got 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, National Lampoon's European Vacation, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Some Kind of Wonderful, Plane, Trains and Automobiles, She's Having a Baby, The Great Outdoors, Uncle Buck, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and Home Alone. I mean, goodness me, that's just the first batch till you get Home Alone. Is there any one of those films, barring maybe 2, that aren't absolute smashes for the people that are in them?
Savage Island is good, by the way. That's got Tommy Lee Jones in.
No, I don't doubt it. And then it gets, after that, you get even more. Driving Me Crazy, Only the Lonely, Career Opportunities, Curly Sue, Beethoven, Home Alone 2, Dennis the Menace. The list goes on and on. Miracle on 34th Street, Baby's Day Out, 101 Dalmatians, Flubber. The list is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness me.
Yeah, he was a machine. In the sort of
Yeah.
through the 80s and into the early 90s, the man was a machine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even as far as 2002, Made in Manhattan. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, and it's directed by somebody called Wayne Wang, which made me laugh for the wrong reasons.
It would,
but it does. It's got
Wayne.
Jennifer. It's got Jennifer Lopez, Ralph Fiennes in it. I mean, these are good actors. Owen Wilson's in Drill Bit Taylor, which is actually pretty good. That's his last one. Just, it's a pedigree, isn't it? Of a of a person that knows how to do the things he's doing. And Home Alone is a perfect example. I love it. I think it's such a good film. It's so much fun.
Yeah, he had a perfect formula. I think, and it's a good thing as well because he invented. Almost pretty much single-handedly invented the Brat. They don't like being called the Brat Pack, but that sort of batch of actors through 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club, and then you could see him growing up as well because then he goes into things like some. She's having a baby, all those kind of things, some kind of wonderful, and then into Planes, Trains, and you get those kind of more mature. Planes, Trains is, it's slapstick at times, but it's quite a. It's quite a moving film in places. Yeah, it's a lot of heart to Planes, Trains and Automobiles. So but this comes at a time when clearly it's a family film. It's one of the perfect family movies. Home Alone. It is,
and remains so to this day.
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah.
Do you know, in New York, it's the second film where he's in New York, isn't it? So in Home Alone 2, he's in New York. He stays in a hotel, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You can go to that hotel. I've been to that hotel, and you can go to that hotel and you can have the Kevin McAllister ice cream that he orders. You can order that.
Wow, cool.
No. I didn't order the ice cream, by the way, just so you know.
Why not?
But I did. Because it's quite expensive, and I don't really want to eat that much ice cream. It comes like the one he has in the film, massive.
That's America, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's just it's the one from the film.
Their ice creams that big.
And the hotel it's a beautiful hotel they're in, but you have to queue a long time to get even access to the bar. So. What it is, but amazing anyway. That's just that's the power of the movie, isn't it?
It is. If you didn't fancy going to see Home Alone on that day, or that week, you could have gone and seen. If your predilections lay elsewhere, then you could have gone and seen The Hot Spot.
Chalk.
Oh yeah,
Chalk. Have you met Cheese?
Yeah.
Rarely have I met Cheese.
Don Johnson, Jennifer Connelly. Yeah. Let's just leave it to know
any more than that. Yeah.
It's called the Hot Spot.
Exactly. This is it's a very popular film in Blockbuster. It was never in. I can tell you that much. And that tape was rewound and rewound. There were certain spots of that tape that were transparent. I'm pretty sure of it. From where they were rewound, played. What those parts were, I'll leave it to your imagination.
Yeah. Is it like, what's it, Wild Things with what's her face?
One Wild Night.
No, not One Wild Night. No, was it Wild Things with hair out of Denise?
Denise Richards.
Denise Richards.
Goodness
and
me,
Ned
yes. Yeah, that just came back. The old tape was transparent. I was just like, what happened to that? It's like it's been rewound and played a million times. It's pretty much. So, and sometimes when you got the cassette box back, you have to sort of peel them open. There was a kind of a quack sound when you opened it. It more quacked as you opened it. And you're like, there was some kind of organic matter ripping when I opened that.
Yeah, but secreted from what?
I think you know. Some people were using them boxes as catcher's mitts for all sorts of things. Horrible. God's sake, use something else.
There's a dark rabbit hole. Yes, you could have gone and seen The Hot Spot. If you didn't fancy that, then Texasville released as well, came out.
Never watched it.
I've seen this. I can't remember anything about it, but it's the sequel to The Last Picture Show from 1971, which star in, Sybil Shepherd and Jeff Bridges. So in The Last Picture Show, this is set in I think it's 1951, I think it is. That's set in the 1950s. They're teenagers in the town, and they're kind of it's a coming-of-age movie in a town which is sort of collapsing and falling apart, and there's nothing to do. It's that kind of thing. And it was very good. And this is kind of a sequel set 32 years later where they've grown up and they're still there, and they, it's like following their lives later on. I know I watched it because I like The Last Picture Show, but I can't remember a thing of it now. I imagine it's good, but who knows? There you go. If you didn't fancy any of them, then there was Mr. Frost. A serial killer gets sent to a mental institution, but as his insidious presence causes the doctors and orderlies to receive strange visions, his psychiatrist tries to find out his true identity. Jeff Goldblum seems to be in loads of films around this time, and here he's again. Can't say I've ever heard of this one, though.
Yeah, I remember. Do you remember the box cover for it with the kind of evil facey eyes thing?
I've seen the box.
In the
but no.
trailer where it's just a Goldblum movie. Spoilers, is the devil.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Yeah.
I was going to watch it
Is the
too.
it's all right, but there's no ending, which was what frustrated almost everybody that sees it. You watch the film and you're expecting this kind of big devilly ending, and there isn't one. It just kind of peters out to nothing. It's like, oh well, that was fun. Oh, there you go then. So you couldn't someone go, oh well, never mind then. See you later. It's that.
Finish the story, damn you.
Yeah, there isn't really an end to it. And of course, with it being called Mr. Frost, bring this out at Christmas in the UK, a lot of kids were getting Mr. Frosties for Christmas. They'd have been very upset if they got Jeff Goldblum staring at them through the wrapper, as opposed to a little penguin making ice drinks.
What's this for me? I'm scared. And also, there's no ending.
Yeah, that scared me more than the film, the lack of ending.
Mother, how does it end?
No, make me an ice drink with this syrup.
There is no
But
syrup.
it's just ice with blue liquid on it, blue food colour on it. Make with the blue food colour drinks.
Make up for your sins of getting me Mr. Frost and not Mr. Frosty.
Why does it take ages to grind ice? Because it's not a grinder, is it? What you're using there is the equivalent of a cheese grater inside it, which you spin. So you're just grating ice. Ease down. You've blown the transaxle Ripley. Ease down.
It's as sharp as a penguin's beak.
It says that on the box, actually.
It does. That's its tagline. We won't be beat on penguin's beak. That's what it
Penguin's
is.
beak sounds like some kind of cocaine variant that I don't want to think about.
I was thinking some kind of painful shit, but
No. I
COVID.
refuse to
Blame
be
it
drawn into your poo talk.
blame it all on COVID.
Blame it on the
14th of
boogie.
December. 20 years before the MCU turned up and did it, we could have gone and watched Captain America.
You wouldn't have wanted to, though.
Why? By
Goodness
Albert
me.
Pune.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a sign of quality.
Oh,
In
is
fact,
it
that's
not?
the opposite. That's the exact opposite. No, this is, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love The Sword and the Sorcerer. I mean, it's a great film.
You do.
But that's niche for most people. Most people would look at that and go, bah, that's crap. And then if you look at the other Albert Pine films, no, you're not going to find anything there but pain.
He's like the anti John Hughes.
It really is. It ain't good. It ain't good at all.
It ain't good. But we'll put a link in. This entire film is on YouTube if you want to watch it.
That's crazy. I mean, what's going on with copyright these days? And then they normally copyright strike you for farting on bloody YouTube. So
Yeah, so it's on YouTube. This the full film. So it's got. I mean, there's a bit of cast in this. It's got Ronnie Cox, Ned Beatty,
Yeah.
and Matt Salinger. You remember him as Steve Rogers?
I do remember him.
I mean, I'm quite interested. You know, like they did like some of the more recent Spider-Man stuff. I wonder if they'll retcon him into the multiverse, into Marvel, into the MCU at some point. This will appear in the, maybe he'll appear as an alternate Captain America.
Maybe.
Maybe they will.
Do you know, he's directed, Albert Pine, he directed 54 movies.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not crazy? Now, I can tell you something a bit crazy, right? Some of these films, well, they're all pretty bad, actually. I just wanted to pick out a few classic Albert Pine titles, just because, Pine or not Pine, really.
Okay,
I mean,
go
some
on
of these,
then.
right? So you've got,
Am I supposed to guess?
No, you don't have to guess.
Quiz?
You could probably guess. Vicious Lips.
Yeah, that's Pine.
That's the Alien from LA.
Yes, I was going to say yes to all of them.
God, he directed Cyborg.
He did.
Doll Man.
He did a few with what's his face Van Damme, didn't he?
Brain Smasher, a love story.
It's like poetry.
Kickboxer 4, the aggressor. He's aggressive then, after 4. Ravenhawk.
Not to be confused with Lady Hawk.
Nemesis 3, Pray Harder. Omega Doom, Crazy 6, Postmortem, Urban Menace, Ice-T, Always Wanted to Be a Hoe. That was a music video.
Okay, that's a strange title for a film.
It's a film called Bad Business with a B-I-Z. Max Havoc, Curse of the Dragon.
Isn't that a Homer Simpson's film?
Road to Hell, Left 4 Dead, Bullet Face.
They're Steven Seagal films, surely. Road to Hell and Left 4 Dead.
The Interrogation of Cheryl Cooper. That might just be an interrogation he filmed. And then you've got Cyborg, Nemesis, The Dark Rift, Interstellar Civil War, and Death's Head, Brain Drain. That's just a few of his many titles. And of course, remember that underneath all of that, Sword and the Sorcerer as well.
Yeah. If you don't want to watch the entire Captain America film, we'll put a link into the ending where he kills, where he knocks Red Skull off a cliff.
Is that who that was? Red Skull?
I think so, yeah. I think it's supposed to be Red Skull.
He had got a red skull.
Did you see how flimsy that shield was?
It was clearly plastic. When it pinged off the dummy that they threw off a cliff, it was hilarious.
It wobbled more than my Frisbee,
It was so dodgy.
which was £2 from Poundland. I thought
it made me laugh loads. There was that bit, and then I spotted a bit in there as well where Ned Beatty gets shot with he walks into someone's door like an old lady, and it's a young woman. For some reason, all the people who are old in this are all young people made up to look old with really rubbery faces. So Ned Beatty walks in and he's like, "Hi," and she goes, "Oh, you're there," and he's like, "Oh," and he's been shot by someone with a silencer. And then he goes, "Oh my god!" And then another person walks in and he goes, "Hi," he goes, "Pew," and he's like, "Oh," it's like. Who brought the silencer? But just put it down. You're ruining the mojo for the party.
Oh, it's like playing a game of Hitman.
So
They just
bad.
come walking in. Yeah, it's dreadful. It's dreadful.
It's bad.
But that bit where the mannequin falls off the cliff.
Oh, it's gold. It's comedy gold. Go check it out. We'll put the clip in the show notes. Go and check it out.
If you didn't fancy that, and why would you on that day? Well, you didn't have a lot of choice because you could have gone and seen Miami Blues.
Yes.
Which had Alec Baldwin and Jennifer Jason Leigh and Fred Ward. I watched the trailer for this. I got halfway through the trailer and turned it off. That's how bad the trailer made this look.
It's not good.
It's bloody awful. The trailer made me go, in ways I don't like. And he's really hairy, isn't he, Alec Baldwin? He's got a square. He's got just a square of hair across his front. It's like I'm hairy, so I'm not knocking hirsute guys. But his is like it's skin then hair. There's no gradual fading.
Well, that's because his entire body is actually covered in that. He just shaves a strip in the middle. That's how he likes to have his hair done. He calls that his Hollywood. I'm not going to change his mind. Absolutely. I wouldn't recommend anyone does.
He calls it his Baldwin stamp. Sometimes he shaves a queen's head into it.
God, at least he didn't shave an arrow.
Pointing up. You've done it wrong.
Now we're going to have to put a double-ended arrow on, and that can only mean awful things happen.
Let's talk no more of that film. It's rubbish. I mean, it might be great, but the trailer made it look terrible.
No, trailer. This is the era of the bad trailer, though. So.
Yeah, very much. 21st of December, you could have gone and seen The Never-Ending Story 2.
Okay. Why would there be a second one?
I don't know.
If it's never ending. Another never-ending story, or never-ending story continued, maybe?
Or Never-Ending Story Chapter 2. To imply that the first one was Chapter 1.
Yeah.
So more chapters in a book, which is always ongoing.
Yeah, no, I can tell you why that maybe didn't happen. Because the guy that wrote the book of The Never-Ending Story hated the film. Hated it. Hated what they did to it.
What, the first film?
Yeah, he hated it.
Oh.
And so when he actually tried to sue the studio so they couldn't release the film because he hated it that much.
Wow.
Famously, he slated everything about it. He hated it. He hated the characters, what they'd done, and because he couldn't accept that they had to reduce the story down
for a film. Yeah.
And they changed some of the characters, and he said, "If you change the characters in my story, you're changing the story, and you don't have a right to do that." And they were like, "You sign the rights to us. We can do what we like, mate." It's like, "No, you can't." And then so he went. He was, famously very, very vocal about how he hated it. In fact, there's a scene in it where there's these two statues of these two golden statues that Atreyu, I think, in the film, walks underneath, like into an doorway.
Oh, yeah.
He described them as two Hollywood prostitutes with enormous boobs, essentially.
Oh.
So what are they doing there? That's not how I created them. That's not how I envisaged it. And so hence the reason that it's amazing that there's a Never-Ending Story 2, let alone a Never-Ending Story 3. 3 has nothing to do with the first two films at all. And this one, the second one, kind of follows it on. Never-Ending Story 2 follows on sort of from the first, but there's many, many problems with it. Many problems.
Nibley, or whatever that bloody bird is one of them.
Yeah, the bird man. I don't like, the bird thing. I don't know. Her eyes are in the wrong place on his beak. Birds' eyes aren't on the front.
No, they're not on the side.
So it's like a beaked monkey, really. A beaked hairy
some
monkey
have them at the
more
front,
than
but they're birds of prey. Birds of prey.
And he's not. Is he? What is it? I don't know. And do you know what the story of the Never-Ending Story 2 is? Don't you? So
I don't think I've ever watched it.
So the kid. It's a different kid in it. I think it's a different kid playing the same kid. I think they're all different. All three of the main leads in it are all completely different. So the princess is different. Atreyu's a different actor. They're different actors.
Right.
And in this one, he goes back to the same bookshop, who is the same actor, steals the book, even though he just says he's borrowing it, but runs away with it and steals it, reads the book, and he gets the talisman thing, and it can grant him wishes in the phantasma or whatever it's called. But he spends if every wish he casts in the film reduces his memory, and there's an evil witch in it who wants him to wish more so she can steal all his memories, and he'll forget who he is and what he's doing there and everything else. But he doesn't know that about it. He doesn't know that that's the thing. And so all the way through, that bird person who works for the witch is trying to convince him to wish for things all the time, and he never wants to, even though it would genuinely help his situation at any given moment. Like, he's being chased by these giant lobster creatures who are going to kill him. And at any point, you could just say, I wish for these lobster creatures to disappear. He doesn't know that there's no problem with doing that, but he doesn't do it, and therefore would rather be risking death than make that wish. And this logic applies throughout the whole film. It's utterly stupid. There's a point where he's like climbing up this like mountainside towards this sort of peak. And he goes, I wish for a step. And a step comes out. And he goes, I wish for another step. Another step comes out. I wish for another step. Another step comes out. Instead of just going, I wish for steps all the way up to the top.
Or I wish to be at the top.
Yeah, no, none of that. None of that happens. So, and it's even right at the beginning, the Birdman drops a feather into the river and it's all acid. And he goes, look, that's acid, and it melts the feather. You could use your wish to change that and make it water. And what's he called? I forget the name of the character. And he just goes, no, I'm not doing that. It's like, why?
Back in the time.
That would really happen. He goes, maybe it keeps all the city really clean. It's like, no, it's an acid river. That's a bad thing. It just saw it melt feathers, you freaky little brat. Anyway, so it's not good. And birds don't have human eyes either, so no.
They don't. Anyway.
And also, to quote The Simpsons, of course, Mr. Lionel Hutz, Mr. Simpson, this is the most blatant case of false advertising since my suit against the never-ending story.
Yeah, good old Lionel Hutz.
Exactly.
Good old poor old Phil Hartnell, was it?
Yeah, bless him. R.I.P.
R.I.P. That was it for the 21st December. Last film of the month and the year, 26th of December. Almost an angel. I mean, this again, The Simpsons. You know, we did it, but we like Crocodile Dundee. Stop it. You know, you had your time, Mr. Hogan. You had your time. Yeah. And that always reminds me of the bit in The Simpsons, the Australian one. For some reason, the Australians thought that this liking of their culture would go on for a long time. It's like the Yahoo Serious Festival. I know those words, but that sign makes no sense. It's so good. And I'm not knocking our Australian listeners, of course, sort of thing, but there was a point where Paul Hogan's currency had gone. And, you know, this, when we talked about budgets and sort of thing, this cost $25 million to make, which is quite a lot for the time. It got a worldwide gross of $6 million, just under $7 million.
Yeah, it's not a hit.
No.
I think it's this directed by the same guy that made Crocodile Dundee and Crocodile Dundee 2. Stars the same cast. Linda Kozlovsky's in Almost an Angel, as well as Paul Hogan and most of the cast of those other films. And this was written by Paul Hogan himself as well. So I think maybe they thought it was, you know, onto a real winner, but it was no beaut. It was not.
It couldn't even write words.
I'm going to tell you something. It's actually quite a nice film to watch. It's not bad. It's quite nice. It's quite a nice film to watch.
Yeah, but
it's kind of harmless. You know, it's just the world wasn't ready for that level of nice. But it's actually it's got a nice message in it. It's quite wholesome. It's a wholesome film, which it's just not quite hitting the mark. I don't know why.
It reminds me of Highway to Heaven.
That features in it.
Does it?
There's a clip of that in it. Yeah,
the Michael Landon show.
Yeah, because he hits his head. He gets knocked down by a car in the film. And he wakes up in hospital and thinks he's an angel. But when he's coming to out of it, when he's concussed, on the TV in the ward is the Michael Landon.
Almost an Angel.
Almost an Angel, whatever it's called. That's TV show. And so he thinks, when he wakes up, he thinks he's an angel.
Not Almost an Angel. Of course. Highway to Heaven.
Yeah. And so he thinks he's an angel and he thinks he's been gifted with all these heavenly powers. However, there is quite a nice ending to that, which maybe is not quite what you'd expect. So I thought it was quite nice to watch. It's quite nice. It's a harmless film. It's just not hilarious. If you were expecting Crocodile Dundee levels of, that's not a knife, this is a knife, and all the knifey spoony, it's none of that. It's a lot nicer than that. It's very gentle. So
not what the world wanted. And there we go. No. That's it. That's your films for December 1990. And indeed, for the rest, that's it for 1990. No more film. No more cinemas. Films were released at the UK box office until January. We'll look at them next year. God, those bird eyes. I keep looking at that picture. I keep looking at that picture of the bird eyes you put in the agenda, and I keep thinking of Red Skull falling off that cliff. And it keeps making me chuckle. Please, just go watch it. We've even timestamped it. There'll be a link in the show notes. Just go watch that bit and laugh. Make your day better. We're going to go to a quick break. We come back. We've still got loads to do. 2 more games, 4 crap verts, end of year stuff.
Partridge in a pear tree, by the sound of it.
Absolutely. So please do stick with us. See you in a bit. And we're back for the final time this year in a puzzly part, a puzzly ending to the year, a Tato puzzly ending. It's over to you, Graham, for the first one to tell us all about the game that wasn't and how that came to be. Tell us all about Plotting.
Well, Plotting didn't come to be. This was a cartridge-only game. Or it was meant to be a cartridge-only game from Ocean. This got 6. It was reviewed in all the magazines at the time, so it was at least reviewed by them. But for reasons known only to the games that weren't and the people involved, and Ocean, I guess, it was never released. It was simply unreleased. And I'm guessing that some kind of sneaky version of this got released to the scene somehow by somebody, because this was fully finished. So
pretty much.
So the game was meant to be published by Ocean. It was copyright Tato. Oh, they're potatoes. The conversion is by Twilight, and in essence, that means the code was Stuart A. Cook. Remember him from Circus and Defenders of the Earth?
Oh, I do. Oh, it's true. I do.
Oh, it's true. Graphics are by Pete Tattersall. He did Overlander, Count Duckula, and Defenders of the Earth. There weren't bad graphics in at least one of those. The musicians here are the Sonic Graffiti lot, which could be any one of about 10 people, I think, but it's just Sonic Graffiti is what did it. Not Maniacs of Noise, no. This is Sonic Graffiti.
No, not that.
And the art was by Bob Wakelin, the box art that never was, I guess. So Plotting is actually, like I said, it's an arcade puzzle game, puzzle matching game, tile matching puzzle video game is the official blurb. Published by Tato, 1989. It is called Flipple or Furry Pooperoo.
Of course it is.
In Japan. As well as there's versions for this. There's also Famicom, Game Boy. Plotting was also ported to the Atari ST, Amiga, which I'm assuming came out. The Amstrad CPC, the GX4000. That's not one I've come across before. Do you know what that was?
Yes.
And the ZX Spectrum. Now, the game, it says in the blurb, this isn't my blurb, the game bears strong graphical and some gameplay similarities to Puzznic.
Mm-hmm.
Which it kind of does. And since Puzznic was actually published by Ocean, maybe there's some rationale behind not publishing two games that were arguably very similar at the same time. Maybe there's that. Don't know. Anyway, in Japan, Game Machine listed Plotting on the August the 1st, 1989 issue as being the 8th most successful table arcade unit of the month. Yes, 8th. I know, 8th. What do you mean 8th? So what is it all about then? So let's just have a quick look at on the games that weren't. And it says here that it was a tragic tale because this was in fact fully completed. It was planned for the cartridge release, as we say. This was to allow the instantaneous loading of backdrops, graphics, and title screens. It was developed by, as we've said, all that team, and it never appeared on the shelves. Apparently, it was leaked to the cracking scene. It was rumored that the game was stolen from Ocean by somebody at the company. Okay, ooh. I don't know if that's. There's also conflicting reports that the game was already scrapped and had accidentally leaked out via other means, whatever that might mean.
Well, it's obviously been sent to magazines.
Exactly. So maybe that's what they're trying to hint at. And there's hope there that Stuart Cook, who was the coder here, might be able to shed some light. He hasn't so far. I don't know about any of that. Now, the download, it says here the download that's available from them shows a lot of loading. Now, I didn't encounter what you call a lot of loading for this. In fact, I had a longer load for Puzznic, really. But I don't know. I didn't. Yeah. Maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. Anyway, so let's review what we have that we can play. Fortunately, we're in a position where we're not sat there looking at an empty shelf going, where is it? Where is the game? We can actually play it. Of course, the instructions then are hard to find for the C64 version because they don't exist, or at least they don't exist in a way you can get them. Yeah. So I had to defer to the another version, and the plotting scenario is this. It's very short. It all seems so easy, but can you beat the micro on your part or your partner? Not on the C64 version, you won't. At this hideously mind-boggling game, special blocks will give you extra lives. Great, but believe me, you'll need to take every advantage of this software's hardware. Plot your move, take aim, and block them out. It's that simple as grilling ice cubes. That tells me one thing, Adrian. They didn't have a fucking clue what they were on about.
They hadn't played the game.
They hadn't played the game at all.
It's a puzzle game about something. Okay.
Plotting stuff. What do you do? I don't know. It even says that this is a one-player game using joystick or paddle controller only. All right, on the Amstrad, I don't know. Gameplay. The object of the game is to reduce the number of blocks on screen to less than a target number within a time limit. That's exactly what it says in the tin. The target number starts at 9 and will decrease as you progress through the different levels. Okay. A block can be eliminated by hitting it with the same type of block, either from the front or from above. When you eliminate a block, the next block in the same direction will be thrown out. If you hit a line of the same type of block, then all those blocks will be eliminated. All clear so far?
Yes.
That's what I like to think. When the game starts, you will have a zapper block. This allows you to eliminate any type of block. The different types of block are a red block, a green block, which is strange enough, they look like the PlayStation symbols as well. So red block is a square, green block is a circle, black block is an X, and the blue block is a triangle. There are special blocks, which is called an obstruct pipe, which cannot be passed through from the top, which can be done from the top but not the side. And there's obviously the zapper block, which allows you to eliminate. And then there's a really complex diagram for how you eliminate blocks. Now, you look at that diagram and you think, firstly, I don't know that that's right. And then it's like, it's clearly someone sat down and gone, right, let me explain this to you, all right? This is like, you remember that guy in the Fast Show? It's like he's explained to someone, all right, to eliminate a block, you got to hit it with the same type of block from the side or above. I showed you picture A or B. All right, Mush, give us it here, mate. The block you hit with can be eliminated, and the block you have thrown will replace the next block in the row, which will be thrown back to you, as indicated clearly in pictures 1 and 2. If there's a gap below a block,
off you, give
exactly.
back to
Give us
you.
20. All right, mate. Yeah, come on. Come on, off you go, quick. If there's a gap below a block, then gravity will pull the block down into the hole. If you hit a line of the same block type of blocks, then all of those blocks will be eliminated. As seen in pictures 4 and 5, I'm not going to go any further into it. The idea of the game is to match the symbols as best you can to eliminate the most blocks possible, either from the side or from the top, depending on how you want to do it. Boom, shakalaka. It's a puzzle game, fairly straightforward puzzle game at that. When it starts, you get a busy title screen, and some. I think the music's okay. I'm not sure that it suits this kind of thing. It would have suited more of a casino type game, I think. Really.
Yeah, it's not the best.
No, it's a bit annoying, and it also looks like it says plogging as well on that because of the way they've done the writing. And then it also looks like it says one up, but look like almost could be what up dog plogging, which sounds like some horrible thing that's like dogging that I don't even want to think about. A mixture of pegging and dogging. I'm not going any further with that conversation.
Plogging.
I've grossed myself out.
You're
just composed myself a moment.
You're a bad man, Raddings.
Anyway, enough of that shenanigans. So the game is a version of the arcade, but 1 player only on the C64. Other versions have 2 players. You control some kind of brown baked bean on the left-hand side of the screen. The game is played throughout the entirety of the screen, although you are really kind of moving blocks around the middle sort of quota section, really. Mm-hmm. You move the bean up and down with your joystick, and that indicates with an arrow where you will drop the block. So if you're at the left-hand side, you've got the baked bean and you're where you throw the blocks and catch them. To the right, you've got a stack of the tile blocks with the different square, triangle, circle shapes on them in kind of a Tetris-y style stack. Behind that, there's some kind of abstract imagery, like a giant sun, I guess.
It's very odd.
Yeah, it's the brown sun, which again, I'm horrible in context of what we talked about before. And then to the right of that, there's kind of tiles to give it kind of depth, but a UI. It's almost as if there's been a wall of brown tiles and someone smashed it through, and then there's like a secret room. And it plays tries to give you a bit of depth. Doesn't quite work, but that's kind of how it is in the arcade as well. So the idea then is that either from the side, so when you're at the side elevation of the stack, you can throw things from left to right. If you hit an item, the first one you can throw, and that'll simply destroy the tile that it hits and throw the tile below that to you. Then you can then try and either throw that particular one at a matching one from the side or from the top, or try and create stacks of them to try and eliminate as many of the blocks as you can. And the more that are aligned in that pattern, so the more triangles in a row or the more squares in a column, then those will be eliminated if you can land your block. And to do that, you can either press the joystick from the side and you'll shoot at the ones on the right-hand side of the stack, or if you push all the way up, you see a little arrow appear on the top of the stack, and you can choose which particular column you're going to drop your little block on. And the idea is to get rid of the blocks in the shorter amount of time as possible. This is a timer on a countdown. The time is tight, and you have a certain number that you have to hit. And that's how the game plays out. That's it. That's what this game is about. It's a score-based game and a challenging one. As you do that, the challenge is that the stacks get slightly higher and slightly wider, and there's more blocks to hit, and they get more challenging, and it's not easy to do. And that's how it works. So you control, it's actually a baked bean with little eyes, really, evil looking eyes. And that's how you progress through the game. So that's it. That's what there is to plotting. There's lots of varying backgrounds, I would imagine. I didn't get that far into it to go through all the different backgrounds. And what I suppose what you can say is it's engaging enough for a puzzle game of this type. These games work quite well in the arcade, but on the C64, this has a couple of niggles that kind of hinder it. So it's a bit busy on the eye graphically. So yes, the colour scheme's a bit obscure. Now, it's the same as the arcade, but the arcade has the resolution to kind of pull off the depth. Because you don't have that on the C64. You have this kind of odd medium res fusion of grey, brown, tan brown as well, and sort of dark browns. It's greys, browns, and then yellow. Who has yellow grouting? in this world anyway, but yellow grouting on the tiles. And then you've got the kind of the coloured blocks, and the blocks are white with the colour of the red square, green square, triangle, that kind of thing on them. The resolutions, you just about get away with it because of the resolution of what's on them. Probably they should have been bigger. Now, why it isn't, I don't know. I'm guessing that it becomes a limitation later, really, of how many you can have on there. And they're obviously characters.
Yeah,
and there's not a great deal of animation going on this. I mean, there is a little bit when it flings the blocks to you and you drop them on and things like that. But the right-hand side is where you're going to get your timer indication over the delightful tan, brown, and yellow tiles. You've got your kind of score, the remaining blocks that you have to hit, the current block, I think it's the current block next, or the block that will land on you if you choose the particular one.
No, it's the mist tiles.
Or is it just the mist tiles? I couldn't really remember what it was. And then above that, you've got a really weird, the countdown clock is for some reason kind of cyan on brown. Now, cyan on brown is not a combination anyone should ever do.
No,
ever.
I thought that.
And above that, there's some text which kind of tells you if you've qualified, but that's brown on brown. That's
with
never a good idea either.
With a kind of black outline. It looks a bit weird.
It's clumsy. Now, I don't get why this is such a big thing to have, why this would even need to be released on a cartridge, really. I don't understand that. So, because nobody in their right mind would ever pay 20 quid for this. Ever. Never. It was £20 on cartridge. No wonder they didn't release it. As a game, it's okay. It's a little bit sluggish, which is a bit of a curse of this game and these kind of puzzle games. They need to be fast enough. And it's not like it's not terrible. It's not like it's really slow or anything, but it's just a little bit, just a fraction, a hair under responsive for what you need it to do. So it always feels a little bit laboured. And a game that's principal mechanic is to just choose blocks and land on things. You can't afford to have it either laboured, and the resolution needs to be kind of there for it to work. It's nearly there. It's an approximation. It's probably okay. But for me, the one note of this game, it's not a note I particularly enjoyed. It's a little over brown, over tan. The blocks are actually difficult to see. Not the most difficult to see we're going to get, but difficult enough. And I think the colour choice, I know it's from the arcade, but the arcade has more of a palette. The C64's 4 colours here, or whatever they've chosen there, 4 colours, really hindering the ability to really enjoy this game for a longer period, because I don't know how long you're going to be able to stand that tan, yellow tiling. So I don't know. Some fundamental mistakes. It's okay to change things in a game design off an arcade if it makes it better. So you don't have to stick rigidly to the colours if it makes the things a little bit more visible. Sometimes they don't get it right on an arcade, and this rigid idea that they must stick to the arcade format no matter what, I think it's come back to haunt them a little bit here. It's an okay puzzle game, nothing more, nothing less. But over time, I don't think anyone would have bought it for 20 quid. And it certainly doesn't really show me what a cartridge game is doing that an ordinary game wouldn't have done. So I don't know. I prefer other puzzle games to this one. It's average or below average. It got 68% when they did review it. I'd have been putting this around the 40s to 50s, actually. Very average, not very exciting. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand why if this was planned for cartridges, and I don't understand why it was, those cartridges should have been shifted to Midnight Resistance, because you see what an impact that having it on cartridge does to Midnight Resistance when we play it that version. It's like a proper console game.
Crazy choices.
But anyway, so I mean, yes, it's the first of our puzzle double build to round off the year. We actually look at Puzznic next, but it's a bit on the dull side. I found I like my puzzle games, but this is dull. The more interesting story here is why it was never released. Maybe the other game we'll look at was deemed more suitable for the home market. Maybe the fact that it's designed for a cartridge for some reason, and they were like, oh shit, this is not gonna. No, we can't sell this for 20 quid. Put it on tape then. Just put it on tape and release it. I don't know. The basic premise is simple enough to grasp this. You fling your tiles across the board at similar coloured tiles to knock out the ones you hit. Did you play the arcade version or look at it?
No, I didn't play the arcade. I looked at it, but I didn't play it.
I gave it a go. It's exactly the same. Those blue triangles are the Tato logo. You wouldn't realise that from the C64 version, though. No, you wouldn't. No. I thought there was a giant legged stick man walking. So Blocky Potato is a character that they encountered and tried for potato crisps, but no, it never worked. But the problem is it just gets a little dull after a while, and I just never found any kind of compulsion to want to continue with this. I got a few levels in. I was like, I mean, the graphics are a decent representation of the arcade game to their detriment, because they've tried to replicate the palette, as you said. Like we said with Badlands. In fact, this uses the same colour palette as Badlands. Yeah, actually does, yeah. Yeah, it's the same colours. So as a port, I guess it works very well. but not all puzzle games work as well as others. And this, for me,
No.
it lacks that indefinable one more go quality that games like Tetris or Zookeeper, things like that have.
Yep,
You're Bejeweled and those kind of classics where you're like, damn it. And
Yeah,
before you know
sort
it,
of-
hours have gone.
Yeah, it's more of a kind of a.
And that was all right.
You played it, yeah.
Yeah, it was all right, 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it again. I'm not doing that again. No.
This was only going to be as good as the game it was based on. We've said this before, and in the end, that game puzzle plotting just isn't that addictive. It's just not, and that's cyanide for a puzzle game. Puzzle game rests or falls on its addictiveness, and
Exactly.
This
In the
has none.
arcades, 2-player, probably a bit of fun, but 1-player, nah.
No. There we go. That's plotting. The game that wasn't. Somebody was plotting against that game for it not to come out.
They were.
And that's what happened. So let's move on to our last game. And that's it. Our final game of the year. It's another arcade port. It's all arcades this week. All arcades, we said.
It is.
And it's, again, from our old favourites at Tato. And was, again, just like plotting, originally released in 1989 in the arcades. Same year as plotting, there's some resemblance. This is Puzznic. Puzznic. And this was £9.99. And it's got 90%. So this was a sizzler. This was released in the arcade, so it's a Tato L system. And in Japan, Game Machine listed Puzznic on their December 1st, 1989 issue as the 4th most successful table arcade unit of the month. That's double plotting.
Makes sense.
Or half, whatever. It was ported to loads of machines. By the way, the GX4000 is the Amstrad console.
Ugh.
If you've never seen it, I've seen one. It's weird. They're like this curvy white and red thing.
I don't even want to think about it. Does it also plug into your toaster or something? Or it's an FM radio and a torch.
It sends you emails. It's still sending me them. Because it asked me at the,
It's a
at the
fax
show I was
machine.
at. So Tees makes everything. This was ported to loads of machines at the time, including the NES, Game Boy, PC Engine, the X68000, the Amiga, the Atari ST, Amstrad, Commodore 64, MS-DOS, and the ZX Spectrum.
La la.
Quite a lot. C64 and other home computer ports, published by Ocean. It's the final one in the Ocean triple treat. The C64 version was developed by Software Creations. Seen them quite a few times. It's produced by David Ward, coded by Martin Howarth, and the music is by Jeff Follin. Obviously, Jeff, who sadly passed away earlier this year.
It's true. Very sad.
Just to come back to Martin Howarth, we've seen him before, actually. He did Strike, that sort of isometric bowling game.
I remember that,
with
yeah.
the loading screen with a massive hand.
Yeah, it was a bit odd.
And he did Scumball as well, which is that kind of... I can't believe it's not. Was that the one that was like? I can't believe it's not. What was the? It's 2D platformer, very similar to something else.
Yeah, it was Hyperball, was it, or something like that?
No, what was it? It was the. What was it called? I can't remember. We couldn't believe it was something anyway. But he's also done. He's got some weird games. He's got a game called Baby Blues, Gunslinger, Raw Recruit. He also did Sky Shark, which was the US version of Flying Shark, and he's got something called War Cars Construction Kit.
Okay.
Tim and Jeff Follin did most of the music for those, because I think they were working both for Software Creations. So it might be worth having to revisit some of them if you do games that Zap never touched, because Baby Blues, Gunslinger, Raw Recruit, never in War Cars, never in Zap, so maybe have a look at them at some point. Anyway, Puzznic, 9%, like I said, a sizzler. And with a title like Puzznic, it should come as no surprise. It's a puzzle game, as I said. As the game loads, we get a nice loading screen with the Ocean Loader music, then leads to a nice title screen as well, well-drawn logo and some credits, and a nice bit of music from Mr. Follin. It's a version of the in-game arcade tune.
It is.
And it's okay. It's not brilliant, but it's okay. You're working with the source material, and it's all right. It's not bad. Pressing fire lets us play 1 or 2 players, and then we get the level select screen. So the way this is laid out, it's from left to right in a series of columns, numbered 1 to 8. Okay, and it's kind of like grows. Each one is more than the last one. So under 1, we've got 1 option, but and then in 2, so we've got there's squares. There's one sort of rectangle. Sorry, there's 1 rectangle under 1. There's 2 rectangles under 2, 3 under 3, 4 under 4, 5 under 5, so on all the way to 8, where there's 8 levels, and they're kind of connected. So the level in 1 is connected by a line to the ones in 2. The top one in 2 is connected to the top and the middle one in 3, and the bottom one is the bottom and middle. So it's kind of like that. All right. So there are and each level has 4 screens within it. to figure out. So there are a total of 144 puzzles to solve in this game. That's quite a lot. It's quite a lot of puzzling to be done, puzznicking to be done. But you don't have to complete them all to get to the end. You just need to do one set from column 1, one set from column 2, one from column 3, so on and so on and so forth. And you kind of link, you pick one that's linked to the one you completed in the previous set. So it reminded me, I'll tell you what it reminded me of, the mapping outrun. So if you think of the mapping outrun and how like 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 3, like, 3 goes to 4.
Spreads out like a triangle.
Yeah, like a triangle sort of thing. So if you want to, if you want to do the bottom ones, you've got to stick to those bottom.
Like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, like a pyramid scheme. So that's what this is like. So you get that sort of impression. Anyway, when you start, you've only got column 1 to start with. So hitting fire starts the game, and you get the first 4 levels. So this game, very much like plotting, a single screen puzzler, which is mostly made up of normal bricks. They look very similar, these two games. That's probably why plotting never came out,
Yeah.
So part of the screen, however, is the playable area, just like in plotting. And in here, there's a number of tiles with coloured shapes on them, just like plotting. From red balls to yellow diamonds to purple cubes to blue triangles and so on. It's like
similar to plotting.
Similar to plotting, but the way it plays though is very different. But the look of it is very similar. In layout, there's a better colours to this. I think it does look a little bit lighter, but okay. So the object of the game is to move these tiles so that they touch a tile of the same design and then they disappear. So if you make all the tiles touch a similar tile, get rid of them all, then you complete the screen and you move on to the next screen in the level. Complete all 4 screens in one level. You go back to the map screen to choose which level, which one you want to do next in the next column, and then the set of screens you wish to attempt next. And it just goes on like that. Okay, so you're never going to, I can't remember how many you've got to do, so it's 8 times 4, I guess. So there's 32 screens to get to the end. But there's 144 various screens to actually attempt, like I said. And that's what you got to do. So the UI on the screen shows player 1 and player 2 scores at the top, along with the high score. Down the left is the level you are currently on and the screen within that level. So it'll say 1-1 or 2-1 or 3-3, 3-2, depending on where you are. So it's the column and then the screen within that one that you're doing of the 4. Beneath this, you have the times for the level. And these vary. So in the early levels, you get 1 minute to do the screening. It's counting down. When you get to the middle set of levels, you get 1 minute 30. And then when you get to the end levels, you get 2 minutes. Okay, so it doubles in time because they get more tricky. You also have it tells you the number of retries you have. And then there's a graphic showing how many of each tile you have left remaining in the play area, which is kind of redundant. Because
you can't see them.
Because it's all on screen in front of you. Yeah, so it's like, how many have I got left of the reds? Hang on a minute. Let me look to the left of the screen.
Let me check.
And away from the play area. I don't know. Don't know why that's there. So in this, instead of controlling a small bean, you control a small square, which is kind of similar to that one we played the other week, that overly moved squares around in that this kind of maze thing. You had to sort of the atomics. Atomics. So you control a small square, you move about within the play area, and when you move over one of the blocks, you press and hold down fire, and this allows you to then move that tile left or right. You cannot move them up or down, just left or right. If you move it so it has nothing underneath it, that will make the tile fall. Should it land next to a tile of the same type, they will both disappear. Only if it lands. If it passes a tile of the same colour while it's falling, it doesn't count. Only when it lands. Okay. So that's basically it. That's all you can do. You are moving tiles around, dropping them down, making things disappear. When they disappear, you might decide the blocks above that will drop down. It's classic, that kind of, what we saw in plotting. It's that kind of thing. The first level screens are straightforward enough. And you'll get to the second set of screens with no problem, but then they start mixing things up. They start introduce the other mechanic that they have moving blocks, moving bricks basically, and they start placing tiles in really awkward layouts, which is tricky, awkward positions. So you've kind of got to look at it and go, right, if I move that there, that'll drop there, and but then that one will fall down, and that will get okay. And whilst that it's easy to get rid of them, like in the early screens, because there's an even number of tiles on the screen, so it's just get 2 together, get 2 together, get 2 together, you progress. As you progress onwards, you get odd numbers. So there are 3 of the same tile Okay. And that then makes things tricky because that means you've got to figure out a way to get them all to touch at the same time to get rid of them. Because if you do two together, you're going to be left with an odd one on the screen. And there's no way to get rid of these things unless they touch one of the same thing and you don't have any more.
Yep.
So that means you've got to use one of your retries. Okay. And that gets compounded by the moving tiles, because that's the only other real mechanic in the game. You move stuff around. There are tiles, there are blocks moving, bricks moving about, which kind of get in the way. And you kind of sometimes to drop on it. And if you drop a block onto one of those moving tiles, if it moves up and carries that block next to another one, they will disappear. That counts as they're next to each other, not like a drop falling, but moving. They count. So that you can go, God, I forgot that moving up. That's where the challenge in this is trying to figure out how to do it. And the challenge rises quite sharply once you get to levels 2, 3, 4. It gets, you're like, how do I get that one over to A? Okay, so it's tricky. So it becomes more devious. You have to navigate the tiles and awkward layouts, and and you've got to do it all in the time limit, being the order of the day to get your tiles around with the moving blocks. Should you cause combination of tiles disappearing? So if you get rid of 3, you get a bonus. If you get rid of some and then one drops down, which then gets rid of some, in classic, other games type style, then you get bonuses for that. So getting rid of multiple ones with one move, combos, you get basically bonuses, and it pops up the little bonus. So that's one way of playing it. So that's if you're a high score chasing mind, that's something that will appeal to you because you're trying to chase that score. But you don't have to. It's not the only way you can play this. You can just get through the level. It's simple, this, but challenging and infuriating puzzle game. And I found this a lot more addictive than plotting, and a lot better. Just like the best arcade games, really. I thought this was all right. The number of levels means there's loads to see, even though it's all very similar. It's all the same, never changes. It just gets harder. It's very easy to understand. It's very easy to understand how to play within a matter of seconds. As the good puzzle games are, it's like, I move stuff around and it hits another one of the same color and it disappears. That's it. There you go. Well done. You know how to play it. Which you would expect coming from the arcade. You can't spend ages explaining someone in an arcade how to play something. They've got to get it like that. There are a couple of downsides. The time limit is a bit annoying. You can pause the game, though, if you hit run stop. And so that allows you to kind of analyze the screen a little bit, to sort of figure out if I move that, okay. And you only get 2 retries per level if you muck up. So you press space, that brings up a little menu saying press fire to continue, or press space again to actually retry. If you retry, it resets the level, but the timer stays where it is. It doesn't move the timer back to a minute or minute and a half. You've got less time to try and figure it out again. So, use them at your peril. If you run out of them and muck up, you just have to wait for the time to run out. Okay. And then you do get some continues. If you run out of continues, then it's back to the beginning. And that's the other thing. So if you do die, you run out of continues, this has no save. You've got to go all the way back to level 1 and try and go through all those games, all those levels again. Can get a bit painful, yeah, because it's very prescriptive. It's very rote how you kind of do them. But great conversion to the machine. Runs well, plays well, looks nice, sounds good. It's a nice sort of sheen, a sort of animated sheen across the tiles and stuff, which is quite nice. Some little sort of little bits like that. All the levels of the arcade are here. The gameplay is as addictive as well, as with all good puzzlers. It's been superseded by recent puzzle games, but going back to this, it's still a good, fun experience. Perfect fit for the C64. There's a lot to it, even if it does put you back at the beginning. There's a lot of levels here to go. Does the lack of variety in the mechanics hurt its longevity? Would you get a bit bored, maybe? Maybe, perhaps. But I think it's a great game, well converted. It deserves a sizzler, I think, as all good puzzle games do. I think this is pretty good. Just to sort of say that 2 years after this, we would see, if you played here, you've heard of Puyo Pop. Yeah, that comes 2 years after this, and I think that took inspiration from this.
No doubt.
The use of color matching, things of the same color hitting together. There's probably Puyo, I think that comes from this, and then that would lead to things like Bust a Move, matching colors together, all those kind of things.
Candy Crush, I guess.
Yeah, all those kind of things. I don't know if this is the first puzzle game of color matching, but it's certainly one of the earliest ones I've come across. And I think that a lot of those games owe a debt to this. I found a website called Puzztricks, and it sort of describes this as part Tetris with the gravity of falling objects combined with the Sokoban moving of objects. I think that's a good description of this. Just one final note. The Japanese arcade version and the FM Towns version had you revealing naked women as you completed each screen.
I wondered if they had that.
Yes, it does. On the right. So as you complete screen, the bricks on the right disappear, slowly revealing a picture of a naked woman. Go figure.
There's a few of the games that do that, aren't there?
I know.
Dancing eyes and things like that.
Yeah,
It's
weird. But it is what it is. Those things were removed for the Western versions. So
For reasons.
There you go, for reasons. But there you go. It's decent. Puzznic's all right. It's a good arcade game, and this is a good conversion. I liked it. What did you think?
Yeah, the same. It's so much better than plotting. This felt, apart from its weird overuse of the colour white, which on any standard CRT monitor is going to make it scream loudly. Like, 'cause there's so much white on there. White. This is white grouting gone mad.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit over bright, but it's a playable version of the arcade. This is an arcade that I've played because this is in, I think, one of the arcade clubs, if not both.
All right. Okay.
And it plays like the arcade does. It's a good little puzzler game. There is some redundancy on having the tiles on the left and stuff like that. And it yes, of course, there is the other things that it does in the arcade and things that this doesn't do. But there's a good puzzler game in here. It's nice and easy. It's a nice, easy win and easy to control. And there's so many games now that have leaned in on this. There was even little parts of this that made me think of Millie and Molly. Some of the later levels in that, where you've got to position the blocks in the right place, and you've got to be, and little things. I'm not saying that there's a direct line between the two, because obviously they're very different. But there is, they're on the branches of the tree. You probably find there's some little loose,
single screen block moving puzzle games.
Yeah, exactly, and so there's a little bit of that, and I like it for the same reason. I like Millie and Molly. I like these kind of games. There's probably a million mobile games now that do this, if not versions of this. You can see why these games worked on the handhelds and things like that, and devices like that. They're geared for that. This is enough of Tetris to make it interesting, and enough of other puzzle games to have little blocks to move around, color matching blocks and shapes. These kind of tropes of this kind of game go all the way back to flipping cards over, turning them over, and trying to memorize, playing memory games of turning
pairs.
two cards over in pairs and things like that. This is an old game trope, but obviously told in a little bit more of a modern context. And all of that said, this is pretty good. I don't know that it deserved 90%, but it isn't that bad. And it's certainly got all the arcade in there, which is nice. So I quite liked it. I certainly liked it a lot more than I did plotting. And when I came to play this, I realized, looking at it thinking, I think I know why plotting didn't get released, because it's not as good and it's twice as much. And what's the point?
Yeah, you just eat in this. You're eating the sales of this.
And I wondered if they made plotting because it was part of a deal. If you're going to make plotting, you've got to do Puzznic, or if you're going to do Puzznic, you've got to make plotting. So they got it made, showed Tato, and they went, there you go, there's your game. But never, there was never a plan to really release it as such.
Quite possible.
Who knows? But Puzznic's better anyway of the two. Apart from that weird overuse of white, which is kind of hard on the eye when you're playing it. They could have just toned that down or made that a little bit better. But other than that, it's perfectly playable. I can't get out of my mind, though, that the little purple triangle looks like a little pair of underpants. But now you can, I suppose, as well. But there you go.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But it was a good game, enjoyable and arcade-like, and that's what you can really want from a puzzler. Some criticism of it I noticed was levelled at it being a little bit sluggish. I didn't really feel that.
It's slower than the arcade version, because I did try the arcade version.
I was just going to say, but I think the comparison is going to be those arcades. So of course they're going to run that little fraction. It was the problem with plotting. It's just a hair too slow. And Puzznic is probably the same, albeit that I still persevered. And because the levels vary quite a bit, I found them quite interesting. So yeah, good. All good. Good stuff.
And there we go. That's it. 1990 games, done. And
finished.
And I have to say, I'm just going to say this sort of thing, that may have been the most positive episode we've ever done.
Yeah, it might be, actually.
For arcade conversions, which we usually take to task, we've been pretty positive. Plotting wasn't brilliant, but was all right. Badlands wasn't released. Badlands was all right. Wasn't brilliant, but was pretty okay. We quite liked some aspects of it and thought it handled very well. Yeah, and Midnight Resistance was brilliant. So, and Puzznic's great too. That's 4 games where we've actually we've not said a real bad thing about anything. We've not.
We like to end a new year with a bang.
Who knew? This is not Jules Holland's Hootenanny.
No, scarily, at least 2 of those games are Ocean games.
Yeah, well, 3. One that never came out, but yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
I know. This basically was with a bang. Yeah, well done, people. You finally we've had a 100% positive episode. I'm
and
shocked.
Took 160 odd episodes, but there
166 episodes and 5.5 years.
Yay!
Oh, good Lord. There we go. That's it. So that was Midnight Resistance. Awesome, brilliant. What a game. That's really good. Badlands may not look much, but it's got it where it counts.
Good controls. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the best thing about it. And that's what you need. Plotting never came out and a bit dull, but not terrible. Good conversion of a dull original. And Puzznic, which was a good conversion of a decent original.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Just before we get to the crap verts, there were some games that were budget games. There was Run the Gauntlet already for £3.
Bargain.
That is bargain. Delta for £3.
That's good. Worth
That's
it for the
bargain.
Mixie load alone.
Yeah, Strike Fleet, if you remember that, for £7. It's a disc-only budget game.
That's unusual. Strike Fleet was quite good, though.
It was quite good. And Outrun for £3.
That's probably okay for £3. It's not great, though.
No. Right. We've got some crap verts, 4 to be precise. The first one is a double pager.
Yes, I can see it. What's this for? Line of Fire.
I don't know what to make of this. I saw this and I was like, that's the guy from Cabal on the right.
It is, yeah.
That's the guy from, I think it was Grisor. The muscle definition is off the charts.
Yeah, and anatomically incorrect.
I don't know what's happened with their muscles. And it's just crazy. I just didn't know what to make of it. It says this time they've gone too damn far.
Who has?
Who has? Why has he got such severe tram lines in his hair? What's happened to his face? Why is it? I don't know. There's so much I laughed like could drain at this because of those arms. He really wants you to know he's in line of fire, doesn't he? He's got his headband. He's got a tattoo.
What does it say? Why does it say Loff on his head?
Line
LOF,
of fire.
Loff. Oh, of course, yeah. Well, you wouldn't have that tattooed on your arm because on your arm it just says Loff.
Or on a headband.
Or on a headband. Stupid idiot. So there's a few silly mistakes, isn't there? Never fire a machine gun at Apache gunship. That's not going to end well for you, let alone 4 of them. The collective noun for Apache gunships is "you're fucked." Is what that's how it's described.
Yeah,
completely.
Probably.
They wouldn't have even need to have got that close to shoot those people if that's what the plan was. And for some reason, one of them's something's exploding in the background.
I don't know.
It's a bit weird. That explosion's weird as well because it seems I don't quite know what's caused that.
What's exploded?
And why is it exploded like that? Like it's like a tree's exploded.
Yeah. And
I don't know. Weird.
Those Apache gunships are just cut and pasted because they're in exactly this.
Yeah, that's just exactly that. You know, I don't like the way they've got the US Gold logo in the eye of fire as well. I think it's tacky, cheesy nastiness that should never be allowed to be. Don't put it there because it's already on the page on the right hand side corner. So it doesn't need to be there. It's really daft to do that. It's really daft, like bad daft. And then you've got loads of crappy screen grabs. I don't like the fact that he's got weird tram lines on his head and his veins are bulging to his cheeks. What's he doing? What's he been snorting?
We've not seen muscle definition like this since the Amazon Warrior advert way back in 85, 86.
No, and have you noticed the way he's got his bullet belt? He's got 2 bullet belts over the same arm. That's just plain stupid.
It's so, the one on the right ain't got one. Maybe you could give him one.
And what's worse still is that gun he's holding clearly doesn't use those bullet belts.
No, those bullets are way too big for an Uzi.
Well, they're for a belt-fed machine gun, neither of which that either of them have got. So he's just carrying bullets around for no reason whatsoever, and they're heavy and also dangerous. If he gets shot in the bullets, he's going to be dead instantly, and so's his mate.
And it looks like in the water, he's not shooting that guy in the water looks like a zombie.
Yeah, I mean, are they supposed to be being rescued? It looks like he's shooting them. I don't get it. It's a bit confusing.
Understand.
Where is it even set? Is that meant to be some kind of quasi Vietnam? They didn't have Apache gunships then. Is it where the hell are they?
I don't know, but it's just a rip off of. It's like the original adverts were ripping off Schwarzenegger and Stallone stuff, weren't they, and things like that. And these are now ripping off their own advert. These are now ripping off their own adverts.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously looking at the screen grabs. It's a bit of a
is it an Operation Wolf type thing?
Yeah, it looks like it. Maybe it's some sequel I've never heard of. I don't know, and I don't want to know because it's not very good. I still can't get over the. It's a Sega game, so it must be an arcade of some description, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, it is.
But I don't like the US Gold in the eye. I don't like it. I don't
line
like
of
it
fire
all.
going up.
No, I don't like it. I mean, I get what they were aiming
on a
for.
bizarre
No.
diamond sort of checkerboard.
Yeah, it's a hash. It's a hash, all right, all of it. I don't know. What's he pointing at? He's not pointing at the helicopters.
It's because it's the Cabal guy.
But and he's also, have you noticed he's got look, he's a muscly guy, but he's got back fat. You know,
Nothing's right about it.
No, he's got a back ass.
And I don't think, if you look as well, sort of thing, the way he's twisted all wrong. Like his waist belt is, you can see his sort of front leg to there, which means he's facing kind of to the, but his torso he's all wrong, and he's too short. He's got no belly.
No, and his pants has clearly been borrowed from the village people. It's not good. It's not a good look.
And the other guy's like incredibly thin.
He is a bit over thin actually, and weirdly, he looks. What's he carrying? Is that a grenade? What's he carrying at the back there?
It's water bottle. In case he needs a drink.
I don't know. He's not going to carry much water in that. It looks like it's can sized. And he's jowly and veiny and of neck, and it's not good. It's not good at all.
I did laugh. I was like, "What the hell? They've just gone mad."
Classic crap vert. Not very good.
Yeah, not very good. There we go. Let's have a look at the next one.
Oh goodness me! What is this?
Well, this, Graham, is SPO 4D RTS boxing.
SPO 4D. SPO 4D RTS, yeah. What is this? Who wanted 4D boxing?
With robots? Who wants to watch robots box?
Well, if the fourth dimension is time.
I don't know. With laser eyes.
Why? What's the point in boxing then? Just use them.
Also,
why have they put gloves on a robot and shorts?
Why does it look like one's feeling pain? Why? Why did they program you to feel pain?
Clearly, right, they're not lasers because that's just where they look. Because he's even though he's punched him in his robot belly and that's winded him, even though he doesn't have lungs,
he
doesn't breathe. He's crouched over as if he's been winded, and his eyes are still pointing down. So his eyes are just on. That's just his lights.
Do you want to box in the fourth dimension?
Now, what that means, AD, is that they're boxing in a fog for them to be able to see that. So this is sports fog boxing with robots that feel pain. Why are they wearing shorts? They don't need them. They're robots. Have you given them genitalia or something? Because if they get a low blow, does it injure them? Why would you do that?
I don't know.
Why is there so many? I've got so many questions. I don't get why you'd give rope. Why are they wearing trainers and socks? Why? They're not in a ring.
Don't know. Why are they so well muscly defined?
Why did they create these horrific robot slaves? Why have they got? I don't get the boxing gloves. I don't understand why they'd need them. It doesn't matter, does it?
No.
What are you protecting them from?
And why is the text at an angle, a 45-degree angle all over the place, and so small you can't read it?
It says, "Do you want to box in the fourth dimension?" What does it mean?
Yeah. Well, like it says.
The fourth dimension is realism and the action is amazingly real. You've used realism and real in the same sentence. There's something very wrong with them. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
It made me chuckle. It reminded me of that stupid basketball one we saw that futuristic basketball nonsense, whatever it was, we saw the other week. What was that? Where it was falling to the floor. This reminded me of that, but worse. Why? I don't understand. Why make robots and then give them shorts and gloves?
You dictate how tall, how heavy, and how strong they are. So just make them really heavy and really strong then.
Yeah.
Because I'm really tall. Just have the tallest, strongest, heaviest robot you can.
Modelled and simulated on real human movement. But they're robots.
So they don't need to move that way, do they?
No.
It says, next you train them and build them up into lean, powerful fighting machines. Why would they be lean if you've made them heavy and tall? I don't want them lean. There's no what they're going to do? Lose components? Are they going to get less oil in their robot muscles? How are they going to get lean? They're f***ing robots.
Don Matrick, president of Don Matrick, never trust Don Matrick. He says this is the best game he's ever played.
I don't believe him. I bet there's people inside those traps. They're like, that's why he's going, oh, my head. Because it sounds really loud in there when you get clonked. Pong!
Possibly.
Really loud. Why did they make it out of sort of resonating metal shell? It's like a bell around my head.
And what is that background? What texture?
Fog. It's just fog.
It's fog. Yeah,
it's fog. It's the fog. We'll never know why they've clothed those poor robots, but they have. I guess to make it look more boxingy.
They've made them aware of their bodies.
But who knows what happens in the SPO League? We don't know, do we?
4D, it's RTS boxing. It's real-time strategy boxing.
SPO, that's the league, the SPO League.
There you go. SPO 4D RTS boxing. Love it. Anyway, still got another one. This one is just dreadful.
Oh, God.
This one is so bad. It's like I saw this and I was like, what? There's so much wrong with this. There's so much. So
if there's an advert that shouts 80s, it's this one.
Yeah, at the
Or
end of
early
1990s.
90s maybe. Yeah,
so this
goodness me.
is the ultimate ride. So basically, we've got it's a racing. It's another one from Mindscape, as the previous one was. We've got a guy on a motorbike who could be one of those robots actually,
Could be.
and he's riding along, but he's more instead of concentrating on the road. It's the same sort of color scheme. There's a woman on the right with just a jacket on, and the jacket's open down to her sort of belt buckle, exposing some cleavage because she's got nothing on underneath it. She's wrapped in a checkerboard, I don't know, like she's doing ribbon, like she's doing gymnastics. And he's like more interested in gawping at air.
He is.
It's like, what? And then it says, open up the throttle for the ultimate ride.
Tame your dream machine. What is going on?
It's so bad. So bad. This made me laugh. Because I was like, no, you can't do this. No. But I don't know.
So bad.
Do you want to have a go at it? You go for it.
It's so bad. I mean, for a start, they've clearly drawn Ripley from the film Alien there.
Yeah.
So that's Ripley. There's no doubt about that. I like the logo. I'll be honest. The ride logo, the Ultimate Ride. That's almost like an 80s movie. Someone's
very much so. Yeah.
Their typography of the 80s movies around at that time, and you could almost imagine this could be the sequel to the film Drive, for example, Ride.
Or Race.
Just that ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Ride. And that logo, it's very similar to that. And I get that. That aesthetic I like. The Ultimate Riding, not so much, but the ride part I like. But the rest of it, the dubious motorbike rider, not on a road, he's clearly on a beach of some kind, riding a race bike, but with really little wheels. It's like a mini motorbike. It looks like it's too small for him. He's not going to impress anyone on that.
He's only about 4 foot tall.
He is. He's a midget, and he's got a really thick back wheel that looks broken compared to the front wheel. So either he's wheeling or his bike's quite badly broken, and there's something wrong. It's like it's scrunched. The back wheel's too close to the front wheel, even at that perspective. It's not working.
Nope.
Then add to that the dubious nature of what is going on there. You know, the picture of for some reason, a cleavage-bearing woman, Ripley, going, you know, hey. I'm like, what? Why? What's that got to do with motorbike racing at all?
Don't know.
Now, I know at this time, motorbike racing and Formula One did have, you know, pit girls and things. We don't have them now, I don't think. But they certainly had them then. But even that, she doesn't look anything like that either. So it's clearly, I'm not sure what's going on. I think the guy just like Ripley from Alien. I think that's the only way. It looks exactly like her.
It does.
And as for the motorbike and all the text, the Ultimate Ride even lets you design your own course, blah, blah. It's like, you can't make up for the fact that you've got a guy, clearly, or somebody at least, maybe not a guy, but somebody on that bike, gawping at Ripley. And it makes no sense for it to do that. Nice typography on that writing, though. I'm sort of giving it a pass a little bit for that. The rest of it, no. Dubious.
Dubious, yeah. We still have one more. We saw the first one.
Oh, no. It's back.
Strider 2. Just the first one was crazy enough, and we thought but they've topped it. Well done, whoever did this one. No limits, no mercy, no surrender.
No, and no IP infringement from RoboCop at all there.
No good.
No, it's not. And I mean, what? Why? Strider 2, the 2's an afterthought in that logo, isn't it? You don't really need it. I think it's because the people thought they're not going to see those swords. You know what the answer to that is? Put them in the front.
Yeah.
Because people would have figured that said Strider. You don't need to hide them behind Strider and then put the little number 2 in case people don't see the 2 part. Yeah. It's got 2 swords there. I get it. Stupid, dumb idiots.
What move is he doing?
I don't know.
It's like it's all wrong.
It's everything's wrong about that. He's clearly his t-shirt's too small. His vest top, is too small.
Yep.
No, whoever bought him that, because he never bought that for himself. Someone bought him that for Christmas, and he's put it on, and they're like, "Go on, put it on. Put that thing on a vest now." He's like, "Oh, well, I was saving it for best, but okay, I'll put it on this once."
I'm off on a mission.
Because it's got a nice sort of flash logo, like a lightning bolt on it. I'm like, oh, yeah. Dear. And then he's got again, we said it last time. He's got his sword on his back because the sword's the thing in this, isn't it? But he's also got a machine gun, and he's shooting something in the face from really close range. But the range and the scaling is all wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Ed 209s are attacking him from all sides.
They are.
But they're tiny. Tiny 209s.
Yeah, they're kind of Ed 106 or something, aren't they? They're not quite as tall or quite as well grown. I don't know. There's a lot of orange on this as well. Everything's bathed in an orange light.
Oh, it's bathed in a blood red light, all right. Yeah.
It's all orange. There's even a giant orange in the background. I don't get it. He's apparently back with a vengeance because it says there the warrior returns with a vengeance in the ultimate fight for freedom. Those are all conflicting different emotions and things. Is he returning with vengeance or is he fighting for freedom or both? Or
I don't know.
a flash of steel, a blast from his devastating gyro laser gun. Strider's back in action, pulverizing the enemy and striving for justice. This time there will be no limits, no mercy, no surrender. You can't be striving for justice if there's no mercy and no surrender.
Wasn't that the tagline too? No surrender. There's a film.
Yes, I think no
retreat, no surrender.
Is a bit similar. He's wearing knee pads or thigh pads. I don't think that's a good look for him.
It's not.
I don't think it's a good look for anyone outside of sports.
He's very proud of his bicep.
Very proud of that. It is a very bulging bicep. It doesn't match the other one though. He'd lose bodybuilding competitions for that. So he's obviously been working one arm out very heavily. Yeah, I'm not going to say any more about that, but that's clearly it's his left hand as well. So it feels like someone else, doesn't it? And that's what he's been doing.
And he's got his ponytail pulled back really tight. So he's not actually grimacing. He's just pulled his ponytail back too far, and he can't pull any other expression on his face.
At that angle, it's to the side. Who does that?
It's a side tail.
The ponytail? It's a side ponytail. Men don't do that, do they? No. That's Strider men, as far as I'm aware.
No, we don't.
Absolutely bloody bizarre. No, it's not good, that at all.
They've had two chances to do it.
The Ed 32s aren't doing him any favours there.
No, we will. Please halt and put down your weapon.
Please put down your weapon.
You have 2 minutes to comply.
And that one at the background's going, I'm coming.
Don't start without me.
Oh, you idiots. It's 30 seconds to comply. You give him too long. Wait for me, I said.
I'm the brains of the bunch. Not you lot.
You've shot Benny, you bastard. That's Benny 302. Where's that? Oh. I bet one of them's bloody Gary Laneker is in one of those robots.
I also think he's a
Gazbot.
He's not just shooting that one in the face as well. That one. He actually looks like he's lifting his leg to fart at him.
I think maybe that's what it actually. He's covering it up. Like, the smell. I can't handle the smell. Oh, hang on. Psst.
Why was I programmed to smell?
That was the weakness of the Gazbots, the Gaz 102s.
Why was I given olfactory senses?
You might want to give that a minute. Give it a minute. The smell's so bad. I agree.
Wait for Colin. He's coming from over there.
Colin, don't come over here. He's farted and it stinks.
Stay where you are.
And he's killed Benny. He's killed Benny to cover it up.
Stay where you are, Colin. We can manage this. I'm shooting from 2 feet away, and I think I might have shot Benny in the face.
Both of them are point blank shooting and missing.
Yeah.
If only they gave us targeting computers.
Yeah,
and bullets.
And what are all those swords around him?
Oh, that's his shtick, in it. I guess he has that sort of super sword thing, doesn't he? I can't remember what Strider had a thing.
Because Strider was crap, wasn't it?
Yeah, really crap. Yeah, he did that 4-stage animation of jumping. It was like,
so now we've got Strider.
Wasn't good.
We've got Strider 2 to look forward to.
Oh no limits, no mercy, no surrender, no bloody point.
No good.
That's waiting for a redux. That is. No, goodness me, what a way to end for them. Bloody hell.
There's some good 4D robots. I think the 4D robots are my favourite one. Why was I programmed to feel pain?
Why am I winded? I don't have lungs. Why am I using boxing gloves? Why am I wearing shorts? I have no genitalia of any description to protect, nor would they help.
They just get in the way. I'm a robot.
Can you imagine them asking them robots to put them on? Right, you need to put them on. Why? Why must I wear those? Put them on.
Why are you giving
this does not compute.
Why are you making me feel shame?
What? Why do I need to wear trainers and socks? It's just part of the deal. I'm a robot. Yeah, we get that. Just make with the socks, Robo.
Put the socks and thing. My fingers don't work to tie the laces.
I'm taking this up with the SPO League director.
In 4D. Oh dear.
Have they sufficiently fogged the ring so I can see through with my eyes? I need to know where my head is pointing, or it's all pointless. my head pointers, they're useless in this unfogged environment.
People can see me, but I can't see them. That's no good at boxing.
Ow, you punched me in my... I don't know what that area is. Oh, gold. That's gold, that one. That's one of my favourites, I think, of this year, that.
There we go. That's a good way to end the year. We've got the charts. Let's just run down the final chart of 1990 from CMVG. In at number 10 is TNT from Domark.
Okay, is that a collection? Oh, it isn't, is it?
No idea, is it? Is it a game?
Probably. I think so,
Who
maybe.
knows? We've got Soccer Double by Ian J.
Okay.
Really. Quattro whatever that is, Codemasters compilation.
Simulator.
It's compilation madness. Fantasy Dizzy.
Okay.
I never won a Fantasy Dizzy. Quattro Combat by Codemasters at number 6. Salamander up to number 5 on the Hit Squad label.
Yeah.
That's a good buy for a couple of quid. Pro Boxing from Codemasters. That's not good. Then we've got something called Guardian Angel from Codemasters.
No idea.
No ideas. Hong Kong Fooey
Number 1 super guy.
from High Tech at number 2, and Run the Gauntlet straight in at number 1.
It's good for budget money, that.
Yeah, that's on the Hit Squad. Down to number 11 is Paperboy. Quattro Sports is at 12. Quattro Super Hits is at 13. God, how many
Susie Quattro's at 14.
Codemaster got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 titles in the top
that's
20.
it.
Road Blasters on budget is at 14. Rough and Ready is at 15. I think we might get a lot of these sort of Hanna-Barbera things, whatever. Match Day 2 is down to 16. Shadow Warriors at 17. Rough and Ready again is at 18. It's already gone down. It was that crap. It was that rubbish. It went down.
So stupid when they do
time
that.
of me reading it. It's not the first time we've seen that, is it?
No, it is not.
This was these charts were put together by Prince Clumsy, which is at 19.
They were.
And Back to the Future 2 is in at 20.
Okay. Budget version, I guess. That was
Yes.
a full one. Was it full
No,
one?
it's full price. Yeah, it'd be the full price. Yeah, it was one that we reviewed the other week, wasn't it? Yeah. On the back of the movie, obviously. That's it. No point in looking for the games in January. I'll put it there, but we're not, because we've got a couple of weeks before we get to those.
Yeah.
So next week we have the Bread Bin Awards for 1990.
We do. They've arrived at long last.
They have. Be an interesting bunch. I mean, I'm trying to think standout games. I don't know. Be interesting.
It's gonna be. We've played quite a few. I need to go and do a bit of revision. I'm still impressed with the very as is always the way. The early games and the late games, and the bell curve is pretty much exactly correct for this year. At the either end of the bell curve, we've got some good things, and then the bell lumps in the middle, and that greater proportion of the lump is a lump.
It's proper SPO 4D.
Yeah, there's not much on the good side and plenty on the bad side, I think.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, but so we're going to do that next week. We'll you may agree with this, you may not, but it's the best games. Obviously, all our usual categories we'll go through, and we'll see what comes out as the best game, the crappiest game.
We'll be reaching out to the patrons, I'd have thought, for some of their views, of course.
Of course, have our Patreon-only awards, yes. So, if you... by the time you read this, will it be in time? Probably not, actually. Should have joined.
Yeah, you
should have signed up.
Well, you can join, and maybe you can email us if you do join, and we can, but you've got a limited amount of time to do that.
Yeah, I think by the time they hear this, we'll have recorded the episode, though.
Yeah, that's true. So you could do it retroactively, so you might have heard it by then, and then you might, disagree with us or whatever.
And we can always, if you feel like sort of letting us know, then you can always let us know, and we can add it to another later episode.
But you also, we do the Bread Bin Awards, we do them at the end of every year. You know that they've been coming because we mentioned it at least once for the past 6 months. And you know that we do involve our listeners. So if there is, you've had plenty of opportunities, what I'm saying. So if you haven't by now, we'll give the patrons a prod. But by the time you hear this, maybe a bit late. But still share your thoughts regardless.
Yeah. And I think on that note, that's it. 1990 has been interesting. Yeah, I think we'll save our full thoughts. I think for when we've done a bit more of a recce across the entire year for next week.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And we'll have some stats and things like that as we normally do.
We will,
and that'll be that. So yeah, there we go. Good episode, this. I enjoyed this episode. Despite having COVID, it's been a good episode.
It has. The last episode of 1990, it's been a long time coming. So it's been
166
journey, all right.
episodes has finally given us a positive one.
Yeah, it only took that many, but it had to happen eventually. But just the law of averages would say, that it would have to happen.
Yeah, true. But there you go. So, I think we'll leave it there. If you want to sign, you sign up for the Patreon, obviously, patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. Buy us a Ko-fi on ko-fi/Zapped to the Past, all that kind of thing. Come and say hello on X. Come and say hello on Blue Sky. Come and say hello on Facebook. Come and say hello on Instagram. Wherever you can find us, just search Zapped to the Past. You'll find us. And tell us we were wrong. It's fine.
Yeah. We can accept it. We can take it.
We can take it. But at least we like Midnight Resistance.
Yes, we did.
We did indeed.
I know that at least one of our patrons is going to be happy about that.
That's good. Just one.
No, at least one.
At least one. There we go. Anything else you want to add, Graham? Or should we go away?
No, I think it's time to go. If you do fancy buying any of our merch, go to zappedtothepast.shop. Obviously, they make good Christmas presents. I know we're talking about Christmas, but in reality, we're now in the month of September, nearly basically in October,
well,
really.
You're hearing this in October.
Exactly. And then, you've got Halloween, Bonfire Night, Christmas, really. Other religious festivals are available, I'm sure, in that time, but, that's how we measure the yardstick. So if you're thinking of getting a gift, now's a good time to be getting them. We do offer special prices for patrons and stuff like that on our merch. So just go and have a look. There is some amazing things in there. Get yourself a good mug, a nice shirt, some lovely hoodies. They're really good quality. Go and check them out, if I were you.
Indeed. Go do that. And on that note, we shall leave you. So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham. I am wearing shorts because I'm allowed to, and I'm not a boxing robot. And I'm going to contact the SPO director all about this Raddings.
And you have been listening to Colin. Hurry up, Colin.
He's farted again.
He shot Benny in the face. No, we've shot Benny in the face.
It really stinks.
And we'll see you again next week for the Bread Bin Awards. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.